If you've ever had nostalgic memories about ordering off the dollar menu, which doesn't seem to exist anymore, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook. We've got Wendy's spiking on possible take private news. All right, we'll break that down. I already see Ed is talking about possible bubble fears. Okay, we'll talk about that too. It is Tuesday, though, so it's a T3 Tuesday. We're going to have another guest on. We're going to have Anne Marie on. And of course, we're going to get you prepared for your trading day. I hope that you all had a wonderful Monday. It is Tuesday, May 12th, 2026. And Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook begins right now. Good morning and welcome back, folks. Again, hope you had a great rest of your Monday. We're back for another day here as we continue to move along with this week. Had a couple of earnings last night. We got some more news from overnight, and don't stop now, but the bubble fears haven't stopped either. We're going to talk about all of that. Great to see a whole bunch of returning faces here today. Francis, good morning. Francis is first here today. Good alliteration to start off the day. Francis first. Let's go. Peter, good morning. Welcome back. Zach McCracken, good morning. Welcome back. Crispy Biscuit, good morning. Welcome back. Derek, it's good to see you locked in as always. Welcome back. Wiss, welcome back. It starts today. Braves, Cubs, who you got? That's a silly question. And then it's the PGA Championship coming up this weekend. Who do you got for that? I think I asked you yesterday. I had the tournament wrong, and then I missed if you gave any response. So sorry about that. Producer, good morning. Thanks for everything, buddy. Corey, good morning. Good to see you back. Welcome. Richard Judge, good morning. Welcome back. Solitary Soldier, good morning. Durkus, good morning. EKS, good morning. Kelly, good morning. Bernhard, good morning. Neville, good morning. Sorry, producer. I know I'm moving through them pretty quick. My bad, bro. Janie, good morning. Welcome back. Ed, good morning. Welcome back. Is the bubble about to pop? Are we overdue for a crash? We're going to talk about that coming up here. That's the $64,000 question. It's magical, I think, or Magarici. I don't know. I'm going to call you It's Magic because you have a bunch of weird characters in there I can't pronounce. Good morning. Welcome. Chuck, good morning. Welcome back. Good to see you. G-Cord, good morning. Welcome back. Kenneth, good morning. Welcome back. Linda, good morning. Welcome back. Yes, that girl, good morning. Welcome back. Cam, good morning. Welcome back. The good old days of the dollar menu. Corey, where did those go? Inflation. I used to couple of bucks in the pocket. Man, you had a meal if you stopped at a dollar menu. That is for sure, or a place that had a dollar menu. Anyway, Liam, good morning. Knights Lance, good morning. Robot to Trade, good morning. JJ, good morning. Welcome back. Good to see you as always, brother. CJ, good morning. Cam, good morning. Sun-Kissed Blondie, good morning. Rokio, good morning. Parm. I'm going to go Parm, like chicken parm. Good morning. Marionette, good morning. Mark, good morning. Richard, good morning. Jim, good morning. And the noob, locked in with his Chipotle breakfast burrito, as always. Good morning. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get started with our stock market today. All right, futures under pressure ahead of Tuesday's open. This follows Monday's new all-time high that we got yesterday. S&P futures are actually down 0.42% here today. Dow futures down 0.08%, and the NASDAQ futures down, leading the way down by 0.94%. Now let's take a look at some cues from last session here. Materials, energy, and industrials equities posted the most significant gains on Monday, whereas communication services and consumer staples bucked the broader trend by finishing the session lower. U.S. stock futures fell on Tuesday after Monday's higher close. This followed President Trump's sharp criticism of Iran's latest response to a U.S. proposal aimed at ending the conflict, saying the ceasefire is now, quote, on life support, end quote. He went on to say, quote, I would call it the weakest right now, end quote, as he viewed Tehran's demands as unacceptable. On the economic front, investors will be looking out for the crucial consumer price index scheduled to be released before the opening bell. According to FactSet, the median estimate for April's CPI is 3.7% year over year. Meanwhile, the 10-year Treasury bond yielded 4.33%, and the 2-year bond was at 3.97%. The CME Group's Fed Watch Tool projections show the market's pricing in a 97.6% likelihood that the Federal Reserve leaves the current interest rates unchanged during the June meeting. Now, we've got several stocks in focus here for you today, and the first one is going to be GitLab. Ticker on this one is GTLB, and it plunged 8.97% in the pre-market on Tuesday after it announced a reduction in workforce to realign its operating structure. The next stock on our list is going to be GoPro. The ticker is GPRO. Shares jumped 5.3% as it reported better than expected first quarter sales results and also announced the launch of a strategic review exploring the potential sale or merger. The next stock on our list is going to be Zoom Info Technologies. The ticker is GTM. It tumbled 32.46% despite beating estimates as cautious forward guidance influenced the market sentiment. The next stock on our list is going to be Plug Power. The ticker is PLUG, and it advanced 5.4% after posting first quarter results after Monday's closing bell, beating analyst estimates on the top and bottom lines. The final stock on our list is going to be AST Space Mobile. The ticker is ASTS. It dropped 12.08% after reporting a first quarter loss of 66 cents per share, which was wider than expected of the 23-cent loss. Revenue came in at $14.74 million and missed the estimate of $37.63 million. So pretty big miss there for ASTS. Right, let's take a look at the SPY chart here. Here's what we got. Now, we did set a new all-time high yesterday. So first things first, that's going to be a key level here today. That value is going to be 740.79. If the market turns around here, perhaps we'll be looking at that as a potential key level. But let's not get ahead of ourselves yet. The one thing I will say, if we look intraday at the 5-minute chart, it does look like the SPY is trying to hold on to this kind of 736 area. Let's call it 735 to 736. We'll see if it can hold this here going into the open. If it can, maybe it bounces and we start talking about VWAP reclaims and such. If it can't, though, looking ahead to the next level down, I'd really be looking at the bottom of the candle from last Wednesday. That was the May 6th candle. The bottom of that is 727.82. There's a bit of a gap down here to 725-ish. Yeah, 725. So I would say we have a gap in there between 727.82 and 725. That entire area hopefully would act as support if we lose and cough up the 735 to 736 level that the pre-market is doing its best to hang on to right now. But beneath that, we've got the 20-day moving average at 717.79. I would imagine that even if we do fall here today, that's going to trade up and should catch it and provide some support. So we'll see there on SPY. Really quickly, let's take a look at the Qs because the rally has been led by tech. And we're seeing something very similar here. The Qs put in a new all-time high yesterday, 714.59. We're having the exact same type of formation here today. We're pulling back a little. And if we go back to the candle from May 6th, we again have a gap in here. I've got it at about, let's see, the low print of that is going to be 686.48. The high print of the previous day is going to be 682.77. So that area in there from, let's call it 683 up to 686.5, that gap area should also provide some support if we continue to pull back here today in either the SPY or the Qs. Now let's take a look at some insights from analysts and see what we have set up here for today. Got it all centered here. Lawrence Gillum anticipates significant economic shifts as the Federal Reserve likely transitions to the leadership of Kevin Warsh. Gillum expects Warsh to champion a smaller Fed balance sheet and reduce forward guidance. While Gillum notes that the U.S. debt levels are projected to soar, potentially climbing above 120% of GDP by 2027, he reassures investors that, quote, the U.S. is not on the verge of financial crisis, end quote. Furthermore, Gillum believes, quote, the odds of aggressive rate cuts under a Warsh chairmanship appear low, end quote. Regarding the stock market, Gillum warns that less Fed intervention will result in heightened volatility. He predicts that equity and credit markets could face, quote, sharper repricing around data releases as investors adjust to fewer explicit policy commitments. Consequently, Gillum advises that a less accommodative central bank will force greater price discovery in risk assets. Summing up the unpredictability of this incoming policy regime, Gillum aptly quotes Mike Tyson, quote, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, end quote. I did not have Mike Tyson being quoted on my bingo card here today, but I am absolutely here for it today. So we'll see what we end up getting. Gillum here saying, don't think it's going to be a financial crisis, so we should be okay. Hopefully that is the case. Now, one of the first big stories here, and this is for all of my fast food fans out there, or anyone that exploited the dollar menu when you were younger, probably all of us. Why is Wendy's stock surging in the pre-market here today? Let's take a look at that. The ticker on this one is WEN, by the way. The Wendy's company, ticker WEN, the stock surged 14.05% in pre-market trading on Tuesday. That is following reports that renowned investor Nelson Peltz's Trian Fund Management is rallying support for a potential bid to privatize the fast food chain. Trian has been in discussions with external investors, including those in the Middle East, over the past few weeks to finance a possible takeover. Trian, which currently owns 16% of Wendy's, along with Peltz, has had a long-standing relationship with the fast food chain since a 2005 activist campaign, and that was reported by the Financial Times on Tuesday. Despite Trian's interest, no formal approach to acquire Wendy's has been made, and there's no certainty that financing discussions will lead to a takeover bid, and that is according to the report. In February, Trian stated in a regulatory filing that Wendy's was, quote, undervalued, end quote, suggesting the company to explore strategic alternatives. Wendy's responded by stating it would carefully evaluate any takeover approach from the activist investor. Wendy's and Trian Fund did not immediately respond to Benzinga's request for comments, but as always, I will update you should we hear anything. Wendy's shares have been on a downward spiral, dropping over 45% in the past year. Currently, Wendy's is in the initial phase of its Fresh Start turnaround plan, aimed at reviving its U.S. sales by enhancing its menu and shutting down underperforming locations. And really quick, I'm going to take an aside from the story here. I've seen the commercials for Wendy's kind of changing around some of their classic products. The one that really comes to mind is the spicy chicken sandwich, which everyone in my high school literally lived off of during those years. They claim that they've kind of redone it. It's better. And if you haven't tried it, you should try it. I don't eat fast food, so I don't have any firsthand experience for you, but I would love to hear from the chat. Have any of you tried any of the new formulations of any of these fast food chains? And if you have tried it, do you think that it's enough of a change to make a material impact on the bottom line? That's what I still kind of struggle with some of these, in any case. Nearly 6 months after announcing its expansion plan, Wendy's U.S. footprint has shrunk, with store counts declining by double digits in several states. Its store locator showed 5,675 U.S. locations as of Friday. That was about 200 fewer than at the end of September in 2025. And that was from a report by Inc.com, INC.com. The company's first quarter adjusted earnings per share of 12 cents managed to beat analyst consensus estimates of 10 cents, and quarterly sales of $540.637 million, which was plus 3.3% year over year, did outpace the street view of $517.965 million. The fast food company also affirmed fiscal 2026 adjusted EPS guidance of 56 cents to 60 cents and that was versus the analyst estimate of 57 cents. However, the U.S. company-operated restaurant margin fell 340 basis points year over year to 11.4%. The decrease was primarily due to a decline in traffic, beef price inflation, and labor rate inflation. On Monday, JP Morgan downgraded the stock to underweight from neutral, citing weak sales, franchise profitability concerns, leadership uncertainty, and high debt as risks to its turnaround strategy through 2028. Analysts also cut the stock price to 6 from 7, and that is below its recent closing price of $7.30. So that's what's going on here with Wendy's. The other backdrop to this entire story that wasn't even mentioned here is going to be the GLP-1 usage. It seems like there's more of an arc towards fitness in some of the newer population, or the younger population. Newer, come on, Ryan. In some of the younger population. But it also seems like more and more people are getting on GLP-1s, and they literally make it almost impossible to eat this kind of food. The people that I know that have taken it firsthand say you feel sick if you eat something like this. So we'll see where Wendy's goes. I do really quickly want to take a look at the chart because I think this might be in play today from the perspective of a day trade here. We're currently sitting up 16%, 782. You can see that that's actually gapped us above a host of important moving averages, the 20, the 50, and the 100, all taken out, and that puts the 200 squarely in sight. So right away, I think that there's a resistance level to the upside here at 845. That's if Wendy's continues to trade higher here. We'll see what happens when it opens. This is what it looks like intraday. So you can see here this morning, it traded up, but it coughed up the VWAP, and it looks like it's trying to test lower. So we'll see if it gets any support here around 750 to 770. This area in here really might be the next support. We'll see here on Wendy's. It is still holding higher by about 17%. Oh, and by the way, huge short interest on this name. As of the last reading, I have 82.4% of the float is shorted. That was up from 70% on the prior read. And we've got days to cover of 6.19. So this thing definitely meets high short interest on both of our metrics and potentially could have some squeeze action here today. So I know we're pulling back right now, but I think it would be worth it just to keep WEN on your radar here today for a short-term trade. This is what the daily chart looks like. And even this pulled us down to the COVID lows. We're down at the COVID lows right now on Wendy's. Oh, Dave, say it ain't so. All right. Next story here. Next piece of news. This one is going to be on the eBay saga. And I don't think this is really a surprise to our group. I'm, thinking back to when we first started talking about this. I know we kind of laughed about it in some cases, but sounds like this is not happening here. eBay formally rejects GameStop's massive $56 billion bid and says that the offer is neither credible nor attractive. Maybe they saw the interview. What do you think? eBay, ticker EBAY, rejected GameStop, ticker GME's massive $56 billion buyout bid on Tuesday, dismissing the video game retailer's aggressive takeover attempt as neither credible nor attractive in a decisive letter to CEO Ryan Cohn. Following days of social media drama and market speculation, in a direct letter to Cohn, eBay chairman Paul S. Pressler outlined the board's thorough review with financial and legal advisors, ultimately determining that the merger would not serve the e-commerce platform shareholders. Quote, "The board, with the support of its independent advisors, has thoroughly reviewed your proposal and has determined to reject it," end quote. It went on to say, "We have concluded that your proposal is neither credible nor attractive." So said it right to his face via a letter. The rejection cited multiple red flags regarding the feasibility of the massive buyout. The board specifically pointed to the, quote, "uncertainty regarding your financing proposal," end quote, as well as leverage, operational risks, and leadership structure of a combined entity. GameStop did not immediately respond to Benzinga's request for comments. Of course, we will bring that to you if they update it. Perhaps when given the chance on CNBC, he could have answered their questions, and maybe this would be a little bit different. Beyond financial visibility, eBay took direct aim at GameStop's internal operations. The board noted that its decision factored in GameStop's governance and executive incentives. This serves as a sharp corporate rebuke of Cohen, who has spent the past week publicly criticizing eBay's workforce size and corporate culture on social media. In shutting the door on the proposed merger, eBay reaffirmed its commitment to the current strategic trajectory. The company emphasized its, quote, differentiated global marketplace, end quote, and recent successes in sharpening its focus and returning capital to shareholders. Quote, eBay is a strong, resilient business that has delivered meaningful results over the past several years, end quote. That was from Pressler. He added that the board is highly confident the company under its current management team is, quote, well positioned to continue to drive sustainable growth, execute with discipline, and deliver long-term value, end quote. The definitive rejection leaves the ball in GameStop's court, raising questions about whether Cohen will attempt to escalate the situation further or walk away from the multi-billion-dollar bid. So what do you think is going to happen? Remember, Ryan Cohen initially had said they would go hostile if necessary. You think he leaves this? You think there's another attempt at this? Is this story done? Let me know. Let me know. All right. Bezel says, I only eat slow food. Okay, well, if you're not eating fast food, you're probably in pretty good shape. Junior Bacon Cheeseburger was my go-to. $10 for 3 is too much. Oh, preach. Junior Bacon Cheeseburger and a double stack plain. That was what I did at Wendy's for years. Didn't break the bank either. All right, Ed, how much time do we have? We got 8 minutes until our T3 guest. Ed, you were asking earlier about bubbles. Is there a bubble? What are we doing with this? If the bubble pops, are we close to it popping? Jim Cramer has a warning for you, Ed. He warns it's far more brutal than the .com era. So let's see what Cramer, or as we don't have Lion here today, but that's okay. In his honor, let's see what Cramer has for us here today. CNBC's Jim Cramer said on Monday that while comparisons between today's market and the 1999 .com bubble are growing louder, Wall Street is punishing disappointing stocks even more aggressively than it did during that era. Quote, we keep hearing this drumbeat that 2026 is 1999 all over again, end quote. And that came from Cramer. He went on to say, but the difference between now and 1999 is that this market does not stop punishing the companies that disappointed, end quote. These comments came as the S&P 500 and NASDAQ closed at record highs on Monday, rising 0.19 and 0.1% respectively. Cramer said the broader market has become increasingly divided, with investors concentrating heavily on artificial intelligence and data center related stocks, while selling companies that miss earnings expectations or simply fail to impress investors. Cramer pointed to several healthcare and medical technology companies that have fallen sharply this year. Abbott Laboratories, ticker ABT, which narrowly missed earnings expectations, is down 34% year to date. Danaher Corporation, ticker DHR, has fallen 27% after what Cramer described as a, quote, savage string of not so great quarters, end quote. He also cited weakness in Boston Scientific, ticker BSX, Intuitive Surgical, ticker ISRG, and Medtronic PLC, ticker MDT. ResMed Incorporated, ticker RMD, Stryker Corporation, ticker SYK, and Zimmer Biomet Holdings, ticker ZBH, round out that list. At the same time, Cramer said investors continue piling into AI-linked companies and data center trades because the demand remains strong. Quote, it's like portfolio managers have decided to abandon any stocks that are not connected to AI, end quote. That came directly from Cramer. Tell me if you think that sounds familiar. I feel like even with us, even when we're looking at the junker movers, we're still trying to focus on those that have AI catalysts or some type of piece of news connecting them to the AI trade. See how long that lasts, and we'll see how much more concentration that leads to. I think that's the one thing I worry about. The comments follow growing debate around whether the current AI rally resembles the late 1990s tech bubble. Earlier this month, legendary investor Michael Burry warned that the semiconductor rally was beginning to resemble the dot-com era. Burry placed a short bet against the iShares Semiconductor ETF, which is SOXX, which tracks major chip companies. You know, it's crazy. My thought here about the bears, if you're so bearish, if you do it for long enough, eventually you'll be right. And in the case of Burry, they even made a movie about it. How about that? Cramer, however, has repeatedly defended aggressive AI and data center spending. Earlier in May, he argued strong earnings from Alphabet, ticker GOOGL, Amazon, AMZN, and Apple, AAPL, showed that AI investments were producing real business results rather than signaling an unsustainable market bubble. He also recently highlighted AI memory and storage companies, including SanDisk, ticker SNDK, Western Digital, ticker WDC, and Seagate Technologies, ticker STX, as major beneficiaries of rising AI infrastructure demand. So I will say that, at least from everything that he said or everything that was quoted in the article, he's not wrong about it. He got all of that right. I guess the only question that I would like to ask the group here, do you think that over-concentration in some of these AI-related names, whether it's a AI hyperscaler like NVIDIA or simply a memory player like SanDisk, do you think that the concentration and the meteoric rise of some of these stocks actually end up contributing to a bubble-type effect down the road? Maybe we don't get it now, but maybe we're just kicking the can down the road. I tend to believe that I think we're going to be okay this summer. It's just a hunch, though. Just a hunch. Okay, next story here. Guess what? It's AI related. AI infrastructure frenzy sends data center CPU market into overdrive. And this is really applicable to Intel, AMD, and by a lesser stance, ARM, because these guys provide CPU chips. Counterpoint research analyst Parv Sharma said the global data center CPU market is entering a major transition as AI infrastructure demand reshapes competition among Intel, INTC, Advanced Micro Devices, ticker AMD, and ARM Holdings, ticker ARM, as they're all chip providers. Sharma noted on Tuesday that the expansion of AI infrastructure has revived demand for data center CPUs as workloads increasingly shift from AI training to inference. He noted that inference pipelines, orchestration layers, and head nodes still depend heavily on x86 computing power. And according to Sharma, the total addressable market for data center CPUs could expand to about $80 billion by 2028, representing a 2.9-fold increase from 2021 levels. Sharma said the rise of agentic AI is increasing the importance of CPU resources in AI systems. And he noted that CPU to GPU ratios are moving closer to 1-to-1, up from earlier levels of near 1-to-8. As AI agents require more processing power for orchestration and real-time decision-making. He added that CPUs now handle roughly 50 to 90% of the agentic AI workload, making them increasingly critical to next-generation AI infrastructure. Sharma said competition is accelerating across Intel, AMD, and ARM-based chips for cloud providers as vendors race to capture AI-optimized server demand. The report tracks performance across Intel's Xeon, AMD's EPYC, and ARM-based custom silicon, while highlighting growing adoption of advanced manufacturing nodes such as Intel's 18A, Intel 14A, and Taiwan Semiconductor's 3-nanometer and 2-nanometer technologies. Sharma added that the market is increasingly shifting towards AI-optimized servers, creating new growth opportunities for vendors that can deliver high performance and more efficient CPU architectures. And I think one of the key takeaways from here is, as far as the bubble conversation that we were just having, and the CPI looks like it's out. I'll get to that here in a sec, folks. As far as the bubble conversation is going on, it seems to me like you're still realizing that there's more that can be done with CPUs, right? Like if you think back to Bitcoin mining, that was mostly GPUs. Well, this is different, and the demand is still high. Every company is telling us that. So I don't know that we're necessarily in bubble pop territory just yet. Just my 2 cents on that. All right, we're still missing our T3 guest. We'll get to him as soon as he shows up, but this is a perfect time to check the data print that we just got. USA core CPI month over month for April was 0.4 versus the 0.3 estimate. So that came in a tenth higher than estimated. USA CPI year over year for April came in at 3.8%. That was versus a 3.7% estimate. That was also slightly hot by a tenth. USA core CPI year over year for April came in at 2.8 versus 2.7, again, hot by 1/10. And the USA CPI month over month for April came in line at 0.6 versus the 0.6 estimate. So right off the top here, these numbers are definitely, the CPI number is a little bit hot here by a tenth, except for the month over month for April, which came in line. And the market did respond to this. It's actually moving lower here. So we talked earlier about the S&P 500 really kind of being, or the SPY really kind of being on that pre-market low support level. Well, it actually looks like it's breaking that right now. Let me flip over to the SPY chart. We'll take a look at the intraday chart here together. This is the daily chart showing us at ridiculous highs, but let's go to the 5-minute chart and see what we're doing here. So this is what I mean. It looked like we were trying to hold this 735 to 736 area. To me now, it looks like 735 is absolutely going to get tested here. And it sure looks like the market wants to roll lower. Maybe our next level down here, 734-ish. That's basically just every 1 point. So here we go. We are moving lower on the back of the CPI print. It was a little bit hot there. So and then we get the PPI tomorrow, right? So we'll see if that maybe builds on this or if that kind of turns things around. But this is where we're at. I will say, given that the print is a little bit hot, I suppose I would have expected a little bit more of a down move here, but it's still early. We'll see how this shakes out here. All right, folks, it's a Tuesday, which means it is a T3 Tuesday, and we've got another wonderful T3 guest here for you today. Change screen. Oh, did I not do that earlier? Sorry, producer. Didn't even see your message earlier. It is a T3 Tuesday. Let's go ahead and bring on our T3 guest here for today. It is my pleasure to welcome on Charlie Moon. Charlie, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing great, sir. How are you?
That's awesome. Doing great. I am also doing great. I'm also doing great here. Let me fix the cameras there. All right. So thanks for joining us. The last time that we talked, we were up near all-time highs. And guess what, Charlie? We've set some more new all-time highs, and we're still up here again. So I just want to ask you right off the bat, first of all, what are you doing? Do you think that this rally continues here, or are you kind of setting up for maybe a regression back to the mean?
Well, there's always, at some point, there's always going to be a top. We certainly haven't found it. The momentum trade has been incredible, but there's a point where the momentum gets too big, and that usually is when it starts to signal that a top or a regression is coming. This is probably the week that a lot of people have pointed out with the CPI report coming in hot. The PPI report is expected to come in hot.
Mhm.
I think the kind of key factor here is what's going to happen in China. If negotiations fail to secure an actual trade deal versus the truce that they've been operating under, that could be a short-term catalyst to kind of go risk off in the markets. And then, of course, anything that's happening in the Middle East that leads to more instability, perhaps maybe more, fighting slash, bombs kind of going off, that's where we could start seeing the markets really go risk off. But at this moment, the appetite is insatiable by traders to the upside. They're really piling it in to these semi stocks and really kind of trying to ride the momentum of the memory and the optic plays to the upside here.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, is that a W hat for the Cubs?
Of course, the
Yeah,
market's as hot as the Cubs are.
yeah, that's absolutely amazing. That's I'm so glad that you did that. That's absolutely phenomenal. Take that, Brewers fans, and your L flag. But I'm digressing here, Charlie. One of the discussions that we had recently is that I'm really glad that you mentioned the Trump meeting, because we got news recently that Trump is bringing all of these business executives with him for this meeting. Now, I can't think of any other reason other than you're trying to utilize leverage in order to secure deals. So maybe the big goal here is securing a deal to move the tariffs to some type of level, whatever it may be. Okay. But I suspect there are probably also individual deals going on. The CEO of Boeing, Kelly Ortberg, is going over there. They would love for the Chinese to buy Boeing planes and take competition away from their biggest competitor, Airbus. Tim Cook, as I understand, or John Turnus, or maybe even both of them are going over there. So chips, rare earth materials, possible tariff deal. It just seems to me that this whole thing is about getting a deal or deals done there. Do you see this as kind of a leverage play at all, or am I just totally off base?
No, it certainly is. And I think it's more to the fact that, instead of kind of looking at it from a broad sweeping picture, I'm sure that these executives are there to, state their case and to try and develop a working relationship. It is trying to curry favor in a sense and to a degree. And these negotiations are heightened a bit because of China's relationship with Iran. And so I think it's kind of all of the above. I do think that the United States is in a position of all or nothing in relationship with the deal. And I do believe that this leverage play is really important. They said that Elon's there as well, and it's some very prominent, figures in relationships to not only just the most powerful companies, but also, very publicly well-known executives. And so maybe it's kind of like a shock and awe type of approach,
Mhm.
but ultimately, I believe that it's not just a working deal. Specifically between the two countries, but they're also going to try and curry some specific deals, especially related to these executives of these companies, which are also executives of some of the most powerful companies in America.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're spot on with that. I can't. I'm super happy that you brought that up, folks. Charlie Moon targets triple-digit gains in less than 24 hours every week, and he's revealing exactly how to do that in a free live training today at 7 Eastern. Secure your spot. The QR code is on the screen. All right, Charlie, this is a perfect segue. I want to ask you about some of the stocks that you're looking at. Do you want me to share my chart? Did you have a chart that you wanted to share? Totally up to you. I can do it.
You can share your chart for sure, no problem.
All right.
Whatever you like.
So as far as some of these stocks go, and we can start with some of the ones that might be impacted by the China deal here. Obviously, we also have a Cerberus IPO coming on Thursday, NVIDIA earnings next week. Call the ball. Where do you want to start with here? What are you looking at for potential trades?
Well, actually, one of the big names that I'm looking at is TSM. I
Okay.
think that working deal with Apple and Intel is really kind of shaking TSM to the core. They've shown a bit of weakness. They're starting to break down, and actually, there's a key level that I'm watching in the very near term, which is right around this 390 price. I believe if that TSM loses it, it wouldn't surprise me that they swing down towards 365. It's not that I'm looking for bearish plays, but this is a bit of a standout. This is a name that, obviously is at these elevated levels. And really, the Wall Street's kind of unsure exactly what kind of working deal is between Apple and Intel. I believe that this deal is probably more geared towards Apple Watches and Apple Watches only. But the concern is that this deal ends up expanding to other parts of Apple's ecosphere, ones that, essentially could start kind of chipping in to the working deal that TSM has with Apple. And so this is kind of where initially I was watching this 400 price, that psychological level.
Sure.
It looks like they're losing it this morning. So if they do, and they work towards 389, that's kind of where I'm starting to say, hey, like this is either going to have to hold here and start ripping it back up to that 420 level, or this is going to start breaking down and working towards 363. So I guess it's kind of a balance of how the market's going to react here this week in relationship to the news, and as well with the inflation reports that's due out.
Yeah, and the other thing here, you mentioned 390, which absolutely stands off on the chart here. That was actually the high from February that we went through later in the year. We also have that 20-day moving average, which has been very indicative of trend in a lot of the tech names here. That's at 392 and a quarter. So that 390 to 392 should be a fairly significant level here for TSM.
100%. That's essentially that double top breakout
Yep.
where it's been trying to hold. And that's,
Yep.
theoretically, the one thing that I always teach is that when resistance become immediate support, that's a very bullish sign. And so, if buyers start losing that level, that kind of tells you the softening in demand of that stock. And people are probably going to be looking for the deeper pullback or a greater value play in this market environment.
Okay, that's great stuff there, TSM. You got any more along these lines that you're looking at here for potential trades?
100%. The big one is looking at these momentum plays. We saw how we've seen a lot of the growth stocks, especially those that have some variable in relation to the AI market. We've seen the space plays really take off last week. Pun intended. Rocket Lab was a big one. Lunar, ASTS crawled up off the floor. ASTS unfortunately didn't follow through on earnings. But names like the quantum names, we had a couple report yesterday, RGTI and QBTS, but the standout name I'm looking at is IONQ. IONQ is breaking through some pretty critical resistance in this 55 zone, dating back towards December, January. There's been quite a ceiling at that price that sent it down towards the 30s. Well, they really kind of fluffed up yesterday. They had some really big buyers piling in. And so what I'm really looking for is kind of some extension through this kind of 55 to 60 price zone, because once they do, I feel that the upside target is somewhere around 78 to 80 in the near term. Another name of interest this week is going to be Oklo. Oklo, OKLO, is another stock that's kind of been beaten down, and they've faced a ton of suppression at this 86 half price down towards around 83. But if they could break through that 86 half price, the skies really open up. I think that this is kind of a straight shooter towards 120, and getting beyond 120 puts them on trajectory to recover all the way back or near their upper, yearly range, which is more towards that 150 to 190 zone. So, if we're looking at growth and we're looking at this kind of momentum environment, and if the momentum is at least sustainable without collapsing, it doesn't necessarily have to keep shooting up, but being able to maintain their upper trajectory, bouncing back fairly quickly on pullbacks. These are the growth stocks that you're looking for that could quite honestly, lead to, in some situations, generational wealth based on the velocity that they could actually scale to these prices. So, I always have interest in momentum stocks. I love the idea of, these names really recovering. And, I have one more name that I'm really, really watching that everyone's familiar with. And I think most people are rooting to break out, and that's going to be Tesla. I think Tesla securing and anchoring above the 200-day moving average was critical. There's a price point that I'm watching right now that they breached yesterday was 435. I was telling my students that I believe that they closed above this level and can hold above this level, that the upside trajectory is near 500. And the anticipation is that they could get there by the end of next week. And if the momentum play is strong, it's a possibility by the end of this week. People would generally kind of, say that's damn near impossible, but we've seen that in this market environment, nothing is impossible. The sustainable gains on an intraday basis has been, eye popping to say the least. And if the momentum is there, well, the trajectory is available. Tesla doesn't have much resistance to come into play to prevent them from pushing their all time highs or their 52-week highs.
Okay, yeah, looking at the Tesla chart here, I have 450 as a pretty key level, and I think if we break above that, your 500 target is right there. The other thing, just kind of going back to Oklo real quick, I think one of the other things that's really constructive about this daily chart, we had this descending wedge that we ended up breaking out of, and we kind of traded sideways a little bit. We kind of consolidated. We figured out what we were going to do with these moving averages. Now it looks like we're set up to test and maybe move through the 200 at 86 and a quarter there. And you were, I think you said 150-ish as a possible target there for Oklo.
I would say right around 120. That's that swing
Okay.
high shortly after the start of the year, but after that, it opens up pretty wide to 150 to 198.
Okay, so
The
that's
upside.
that's really good, because if we get any type of constructive move above this 200, I think maybe we go and test some of those.
Yeah,
Some of those
100%.
levels there. Yeah. Okay. All right, Charlie. So far, this has been great, folks. Charlie Moon targets triple-digit gains in less than 24 hours every single week. Is revealing exactly how at a live training today at 7 p.m. Eastern. Hit that QR code. Charlie, we got a couple of minutes left here. What other charts are you looking at? What else you got?
I'm looking solely at the semi plays. The question is, how long can AMD and Intel sustain? And I think the initial concern is, are we going to see the breakdown anytime soon? I think that AMD being so exhaustive, and yesterday the best way I could describe it is that it's the first time that I've seen buyer exhaustion in this name. They had a pullback after the gap up off of earnings, but we haven't really seen much buyer exhaustion in a while. And yesterday, it looked as if the buyers were really tired, even though they bounced off the lows. It was a bit of a concern. So the two price levels that I'm watching right now is right around this 439 to 430 price. My biggest concern is that if they lose that level, there's not much to catch it down until right around 405, 400, which is that second bar, right, or the bar, the candlestick low right after the day that it gapped up. That's that kind of low point. And that's a really important figure, because once stocks start to gap, there's this line drawn in the sand. And usually when they lose that level, the eventual outcome is that the stock's going to retrace back to fill that gap. That gap is all the way back near 352, 353. So you're going to see a lot of bulls trying to defend this price to prevent that type of pullback in this name. So, I think the initial price to watch is right around this 439, 440. And I would say that de facto price that has to hold is right around this 404 price. And if it holds that level, the 404 price, you talk about, potentially a gift from the momentum gods. Again, it's whether this momentum trade could sustain. The momentum trade in specific. I look at the SMH ETF. Ever since they broke out from their 50 SMA, this thing has been on a virtual parabolic run. It's carried names, names from the dead, names that you would never suspected to really be making these moves, like ON, TXN, NXPI, MCHP, which have struggled a bit. And now they're really starting to, kind of raise up. And, obviously the sleeper in the group, which has been extremely dormant for, almost a year and a half, has been Qualcomm. And Qualcomm's trading like they totally changed technology in some form or fashion. But truth of the matter is just really kind of squeezing out a lot of the shorts, and the momentum traders just continue to pile in and try and anticipate this breakout that it's been occurring since $200. So, the SMH, the semi basket, in the entirety, is continuing to be a watch here, a must watch play. I think the most intriguing name that we haven't really seen kind of get really nutty is AVGO. I think they're going to need a bit more of a catalyst to kind of come in and trigger that upside. But any news from a hyperscaler will do it. We just, the question is, will that news come out from that hyperscaler?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, this Broadcom chart, this actually looks like this might try and go. And you were talking about the momentum gods, Charlie. We got blessed with AMD. Let me tell you, we got blessed with AMD. This is one of my favorite chart formations ever in the history of stocks, called the floating island. Price breaks to a new area here, pulls back, and holds the bottom of the impulse candle. This is about as textbook as it gets. It's exactly what we got on Thursday.
Yeah.
And then it moves back up towards the top end of the impulse candle that's at about 431. Well, it did that and it blew right through it. Now that we've done that, I completely concur with you. This does feel a little bit more tired. So we'll see if this finds some support. Yeah, I think you said 435.
Yeah, I'm looking right around that
435
price. Right around that price. It could be as high as 440, but I'm thinking it's going to be just a scooch lower. And again, if we see some buyers come in, it's going to be a great price for a rebound. Outside of that, again, we're going to have to retrace back to those gap bar lows and just see if the markets are willing to defend that price again, which I suspect they will. Like I said, they don't want to see that gap fill.
Yeah, I don't think so either. All right, two direct questions here. We got Nvidia earnings coming up. They're going to be tomorrow after the close. What do you think here on Nvidia? This looks like it's flashing a breakout here. We did have a question. Bockwursts, which is a great YouTube handle. Will Nvidia start to do it again? Volume up, breaking a key gamma strike. So we actually have seen some volume kind of tick up here in Nvidia, and we've traded above the high range here. What do you think on this?
Well, I mean, we're in a gamma environment without a shadow of a doubt. So I don't necessarily think that's a clear sign. The thing with NVIDIA is that they have God tier expectations going into earnings.
You got that right.
And they continue to beat it. Now, the scale of what they used to beat it by has shrunken quite a bit. And so, we've gone from, fantasy level blowouts of earnings versus expectations to now being a lot more balanced. But that being said, obviously the numbers matter. And if numbers with companies, one, trading at all-time highs, and two, with again, sky level expectations, even if they meet these expectations, it can lead to a disappointment because Wall Street, and more importantly, retail, is essentially just having unrealistic expectations on how Nvidia should perform off of earnings. We actually saw a bit of respectfully, we saw a bit of a premium crush on their last earnings because I believe Nvidia opened pretty much at their closing price. And so everybody started bailing out of their calls and the stock ended up tanking that day. And, I think that's kind of like what we may see where, I believe the expected move for Nvidia, let me take a quick look here. If the expected move for Nvidia is on the scale of somewhere around $8 to $10, and Nvidia only moves plus minus $2, the opening bell is where we see the essential rebalance, or basically people kind of scurrying for the hills and trying to protect whatever premium they can. And in those scenarios, that's where we have to be very careful about how we approach Nvidia. I think that they're going to have uh, a beat, especially forward guidance on revenue, that kind of scales to the point where they initially started reporting earnings and the stock just exploded overnight. And so if expectations are, let's say, 16 billion for the quarter, and they have to kind of come in at this like 22, 24, where it's so robust that even Wall Street's caught off guard, and then we'll see buyers piling in. Outside of that, I just don't see much that's going to move the needle for NVIDIA. I think that going forward, this is probably how NVIDIA is going to trade, more of a disappointment than excitement. And I just feel that if anything, when stocks are at these levels, if they don't have a perfect report, it just usually leads to disappointment or profit taking.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And, this is something else that we've been kicking around. I'm going to highlight Lyon's comment here, although he's not the only one that has made this assertion. NVIDIA may be the one who's going to tank this market. We've talked about this, about maybe the catalyst here. Everyone just feels euphoric. NVIDIA's earnings come out, and maybe that's the turning point. Do you think that's possible at all?
The one thing that I've noticed that when we reference the Mag 7, the Mag 7 technically should be able to move the markets. Well, I've seen days where NVIDIA was neutral, Apple was up, Microsoft was up, Meta was up, Tesla was up, and the market was more neutral. For me, it's almost as if it's either NVIDIA or nothing as the Pied Piper, and that's really the case in relationship to the market cap. The market cap waiting for the other stocks really just hasn't had much bearing during this momentum rush. And so, yeah, that's definitely the case, because if Nvidia is the Pied Piper, and again, we've seen the momentum trade specifically tied to the semiconductor, and who's the leader of the semis, it's Nvidia, then it makes a lot of sense. Now, I would say it would probably take a pretty substantial pullback to kind of, dead end this momentum. I would say that it would 100% be the case if Nvidia missed expectations. That would
Yeah.
probably be a really big surprise. That would probably lead to a really big risk off move, not just Nvidia, but all the way across the board with anything related to AI, and potentially really put a bit of a scare about the market saying, "Whoa, we really did overvaluate everything."
Yeah, I think you'd see a sector-wide move down there. Big B is kind of saying the same thing. Traders and investors expect too much from the NVIDIA report. Just don't miss, because if you miss, we might have trouble in more names than just NVIDIA. All right, last question here for you is on the big IPO that we're expected to see this week, Cerberus. That's going to be on Thursday. Ticker CRBS. One of the other things that we've kind of talked about is that maybe some of these big IPOs that we're expecting this year, Cerberus would be one of them, Databricks would be another one, SpaceX would be another one. These big IPOs, it looks like we lost Charlie, actually. I think his camera's frozen. Anyway, I was going to ask him about the big IPOs, maybe bringing some money out of some of these names like NVIDIA, and if that selling really just kind of accelerates on top of each other. Okay, we were almost out of time earlier, or we were almost out of time anyway. So although the internet connection betrayed us, we should still be okay there. And then Brian, I borrowed that from you. Alarm betrayed me this morning. Well, okay. Better late than never here, I will say. Pro tip for anyone: if you can figure out a way to wake up without an alarm clock, I promise you your life will get better. Just saying. All right, folks, I got one tweet to do here for you today, and then we will go ahead and do ticker time and break down the movers and get you all set for the market here today. Let's do street tweets right now. All right, and this is kind of what we were just talking about with Charlie, so this is actually a really good segue. Tweet here comes from the Kobisi letter. Semiconductor stocks have never been bigger. The semiconductor index, or SOX, now accounts for a record 23% of the S&P 500's market cap, and we've got the biggest one coming next week with NVIDIA. This percentage has doubled over the last 2 years. That coincides quite well with NVIDIA's meteoric run. This comes as the index has rallied 146% over this period, outperforming the S&P 500's gain of 43%. 103% increase there. The index has also finished positive in 24 of the last 28 trading days, surging 65% over that period. As a result, SOX is now trading at plus 60% above its 200-day moving average, the largest divergence since March of 2000, when it was up by 110%. Momentum in chip stocks is accelerating. And the big reason why I wanted to bring this up is because I agree, it is accelerating. I don't know that we are for sure at the top of that. I know we talked about some of these stocks looking exhausted, like AMD maybe, but just keep it in the back burner there. It does look like this is accelerating, and we've had a bigger divergence than this before. So keep it under your hat. All right, folks, let's go back to Pro here. We are going to do pre-market pulse now. It is time. Let's bring on 13 and see how he's doing. Oh, oops, I didn't add him. That was my fault. Completely my fault. Sorry about that, 13. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. How are you doing here today, dude?
Oh, I'm doing just fine this morning. How are you? How's everybody?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Seems like a nice little Tuesday here. We'll see what we've got in store for us here today. Woke up to Wendy's spiking in the pre-market.
All right.
I don't know if you saw that at all. Also, Joe, pretty good call. You talked about USO yesterday, did you not? USO traded up 3.8% yesterday and then traded up another 3.35% here today. So how about that, Joe? In fact, you know what? We're going to start Tuesday off with a registering here. Way to go on your USO trade. Let me ask you the obvious question here, Joe. Do you think that this still has some more legs higher? Do you think it still has some more legs higher? Let me know. Okay.
So just because I didn't look at what was going on with Wendy's, so apparently there's a buyout interest for them.
Yeah, Trian, which already owns 5% of it, is looking to take it private. That's Nelson Peltz's Trian Partners. That is the news here this morning. The interesting thing about this 13 is that we're up 16%. The pop actually brought us above several key moving averages. And to me, it sure looks like we put this 844 in play here.
Is that short interest correct?
It seems like it. That's the other thing. Possible squeeze potential. I mean, we get these from the filings here. 82.4%. That might be one of the largest readings we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And 6 days to cover, 6+ days to cover. So we're high on all metrics.
I don't know why it's so heavily shorted. That's weird. But it is what it is. Hello, everybody. MDT's getting down there. Excellent. It's one of the ones we're waiting for to get down to some lower levels. That's the medical device company.
And that's MDT, you said, correct? Let me just make sure I got that right there.
Yeah, that's what he was talking about there.
13, I don't know if you caught this here, but we actually, our guest had an internet snafu and dropped. I'm going to bring him back on real quick to say a formal goodbye.
I'll be back here.
And then we'll bring you right back. So just one sec here. All right, 13. Nobody puts 13 in a corner except I just did it. So take that. We'll get him back here in a sec. I'm sure he'll make fun of me for it. Charlie, I know you dropped there, but I just wanted to say thank you again and a formal have a good Tuesday here. Was there anything you wanted to give to the group to close out?
Yeah, and again, apologies for that. I don't know what happened. The power just went out. But listen, I've cautioned my students today that we may start seeing a bit of unwinding. It's really easy to be caught up in just being bullish in this market environment. And, people are just getting kind of accustomed to it. I have a saying when it comes to trading, adapt or die. This is really important because if this does become the start of the unwinding, we'll see some variation of volatility here at the highs. And if, these rallies start getting suppressed, this is where you have to start being very, very cautious and being overly bullish. I would suggest that people start getting prepared to trade both sides because you never know how this week may play out.
Okay, so a little bit of caution, but be prepared to change if the market tells you that that's what we need to do here, it sounds like.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, Charlie, look, we really appreciate it. Have a great one. Remember, folks, take a note and sign up for Charlie's demonstration later tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. Charlie, we really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time.
Take care. Thank you.
All right, that is Charlie Moon from T3. Look, folks, we have technical issues all the time. 13 and I are no strangers to technical issues. This is just what we do. We deal with them. So we deal with them with our guests as well. Welcome back, 13. Sorry about the snafu there, but thank you for handling it. Did you have anything else here on the MDT chart, or should we move along?
Oh, let's just move along. I want to get through the movers, and we can look at some more interesting stuff the chat wants to.
Okay, will do. Lion here says, don't put 13 in the corner. I will lead a protest in front of the Benzinga headquarters, LOL. I got to say this.
I got Lion in my corner.
I hope to God that at some point you actually do protest outside of that. I will make sure that I'm in town for that. I can't wait for that. I would absolutely love to walk into the office and have a discussion with some of the coworkers and be like, who's the guy out there that seems to be protesting us? What's the deal? And then I'll have all of this great backstory to lay out to my teammates.
Bring Tim Melvin
would be something great. Does Benzinga's have a headquarters? Yes, it's in downtown Detroit, literally in the center. 13's been there. Also, we have a sign outside the building that has our name on it that posts news and tickers and quotes. It's actually a really sweet building. I'm going to say.
You're also in the same building as Rocket, right?
Yes, we are in the same building as Rocket. Yes, sorry about that. I was reading another message. Reggie says, be careful what you wish for. Lion's going to show up. He might, but it'll be a good time if that's the case. Okay. All right, 13. Let's go ahead and hammer these movers here. I'm going to move over to the movers feed here. The first one that we have is BuzzFeed. I can't believe this is still around and back, but BuzzFeed is actually up 122%. BuzzFeed to accept $120 million majority investment from Byron Allen affiliate to buy 40 million shares at $3 per share. Current price, even after the 122% move, is $1.60. Byron Allen named the incoming chairman and CEO, Jonah Peretti, to become the president of BuzzFeed AI. Upon closing, the Allen family digital will own about 52% of the company's outstanding shares, and they are going to withhold 2026 guidance at this time. They also posted an EPS loss of 40 cents. That was worse than the 27 cents expected, and the sales missed by about 4 million, came in at 31.57 million. I'm surprised it was that high, to be honest with you. Quick peek at the short interest on this one. 5.98% of the float shorted with 10.35 days to cover. That days to cover comes on a pretty low average volume reading. Its 100-day average is just under 500,000. It's done 21.3 million here today versus a float of 33 million. So 13, BuzzFeed, ticker BZFD. What do you think on this one here today?
Well, you covered most of what's going on here with Fuzzbead. So
Fuzzbead,
I think
that.
The real big takeaway is that the company does need cash. So this investment amount is notable. $3 a share. We're as you pointed out, we're well below that right now. But it looks like we're struggling with getting back above the 175 area as we popped. In the after hours yesterday, went up to 227. We leaked back down. We had some consolidation right at about that 175 to 180 area, and that is currently the resistance that we're trying to get over. So if we do manage to, the price does manage to pull itself over that 175 area, there's a good possibility we could see that 125 and maybe even that $3 level. So those would be the areas I'd be watching for, is particularly that 175. That's the next one we need to get through here if we're going to go.
Yeah, I'm with you, especially on 175. I too would have a target up there, 227. I don't know if it breaks that, but if we get a day trade on that, I think those targets look pretty good there, 13. All right, what else did you have on the list here? I don't want to just...
That one.
Okay, T-Dick. TDIC, I know. You're rolling your eyes there. I know. Okay, TDIC is the ticker. This is a Hong Kong-based company. The name of the company is called Dreamland. This had an impulse move that took us to 260. It retraced 80% or maybe even 75% of that move, and it has struggled with the VWAP. This is something that we've seen a lot on some of these movers, in particular the foreign movers here. Companies that are headquartered in other countries. Is exactly what we've seen. So big spike. We lost the VWAP. We've really struggled to get back above the VWAP. Are we able to do that in the regular session? That is the question. Now, here's the catalyst. Dreamland Limited subsidiary, Trendrick International Limited, and Link Fung Innovation Limited enter into an MOU to explore development, implementation, and deployment of a comprehensive AI-powered intelligent image library platform. Okay, so we talked a little bit about AI really being the big theme amongst big stocks and small stocks. We're seeing the exact same thing here. Quick peek at the short interest. It's negligible, less than 1%. Scratch it. Float here, 23.35 million, and it's traded 25.5 million here today. 13, what do you think here on TDIC?
Well,
I'll try and keep it a family show.
That's fine. Sometimes people have too much Earl Grey and they get the T-Dick. But anyway, this is trading up. This is trading up to the VWAP right now. That's currently the big resistance level it's got to get over. I have a value of 162. We get past that, I think the next area that we're going to see, that we're currently seeing resistance at, is the 175 area. We don't have more than one close. since the pre-market opened above that level. So if we do manage to recapture the VWAP, that 175 area needs to start seeing some 5-minute candles close over that. I have resistance being above that between the 175 to 190 area. So even if we do get past 175, there's still a little bit of range it has to chew through. The company has revenue, but it struggles with profitability. That's what I'd be keeping my eye on here, is if we can get back above the VWAP. If that starts to break down, you have support at the 65 EMA.
Okay, good stuff there. TDIC. What else do you have on your list here?
CNCK.
Perfect. That's next. That's going to be CoinCheck Group. And there's another stock. This actually reports earnings after hours here today. So factor that in if you're going to do this, if you're going to take this trade here today. Make sure you have a plan for whether or not you want to play those earnings to begin with. We popped up to 280. We've come back in, but unlike TDIC, we've actually held above the VWAP in this case. So we'll see if that gives us anything different for today. Here's what's going on with this. They reported their financial. Oh, so I guess they did report earlier.
No, well, I think the big news here is the 14.9% stake.
Yeah, but also total. Okay, so I reported something that was inaccurate. So this was scheduled for after the market, but it looks like they did report some of their highlights here today. But I agree with you, 13. KDDI strikes an agreement to acquire a 14.9% stake in CoinCheck Group for $65 million. The market cap is $237 million, just to give you an idea. So it's a pretty sizable percentage. 1.26% of the float is shorted here. On average, the stock is a ghost town, but today it's done 35 million shares. 13, what do you think here on Click? Oh, and float 22.6 million. My apologies.
It was looking pretty good earlier, but the price just lost its VWAP on the 5-minute chart. So it looks like this is starting to come back into a demand zone. That's going to be between 215 to, I would say, about 230, 235. So we're pretty close to entering that. The 14 point, let's call it 15%. The 15% stake is, I think, with the big, the big news that's driving it right now. The company does have revenue. It does have cash, but when you go through the different income statements on a quarterly basis, there's, everything's great. Then there's a massive net loss one quarter. Then everything goes back to being great. So I have to do some more digging as to why they've got these large losses from here and there. But I'm sure it's probably some kind of like write down or realization of a depreciated asset, something to that effect. But anyway, for now, this looks like it's coming back into that demand zone. And if we lose that 215 area, the 65 EMA is beneath it. And I don't know if that'll even hold the price up. This is looking like we're going to see sub 230 here pretty soon.
Okay. Really quick dive into this. It took a large hit from its listing-related expenses tied to its public market transaction, which can look ugly in a given quarter as opposed to across multiple quarters. And it also says that its crypto volume dependence can play into that. CoinCheck's business depends heavily on trading activity, so when volume weakens, revenues can swing down fast while the cost base stays sticky. And we've actually seen that with Bitcoin recently. So that could also be playing into what's going on here. Good breakdown, though, 13. CNCK. Good
no
stuff.
Problem. And chat's mentioning BuzzFeed. This is pushing its way through that 175 area.
Yep.
Only able to get as high as about 185. So not really able to chew through all that supply in that 175 area. It's still having a hard time with it. But if this can start closing over 190, then we'll probably have much better trading here. But still needs to start closing above 175.
Okay. Plug Power's on the list. Remember, they report earnings after Monday's closing bell, or yesterday. They reported earnings yesterday. That's why they're trading up here today. So Plug, look at this, by the way, $4 seems to be the key area. We'll see if this ends up breaking and moving higher there. A couple more that are on this list here. Wendy's, we already talked about that. This is what the intraday chart looks like. Looks like 850 was the resistance up there. KOPN, this is going now. Also, remember, we just recently did the interview here with Michael Murray. It was a great interview. KOPN shares are trading higher. They reported better than expected Q1 sales results. This stock's up 13%, giddy up. QUBT, this is one of the quantum names that we talked about earlier. This is up on the back of earnings. This actually moved higher, 13 yesterday. We talked about this in happy hour. It seemed like this had an effect on some of the other quantum names. Rigetti also reporting here. Jay Rice, good to see you back here. I know that you were long spaghetti and short Rigetti yesterday. I ended up having spaghetti for dinner. I did not short Rigetti, and thankfully I didn't because it's up here again today. We'll see if this falls back here. Remember, 2150 was one of our key levels. It's not on this chart, but it's on the other. And look what we did here. We traded above it and we came back in. So let's see if this reverses. If so, RGTZ might be one of the ways that you can trade that. And then AVEX is the only other one that I wanted to mention. And 13, I'll cover any other stock that you want here or ones from the chat. Here's AVEX. This is one of those recent drone players. Here's what the daily chart looks like. Remember, this thing really, we traded it, I think, when it was in a 30 handle.
Yep.
This is traded back down towards 2250 and now looks like it's bouncing. So up 9% here today. I believe this got a slew of price target adjustments here today. Indeed. Baird initiates coverage, price target 38. Goldman Sachs initiates coverage, price target 34. Raymond James initiates coverage, price target 35. Needham initiates coverage 45, and Bank of America initiates coverage 34. So AVEX here getting coverage initiation by multiple banks here today. It's higher in the pre-market. Look for this to move here today too.
28 is your big resistance level on AVEX. If you go to a daily chart, put a horizontal line at 28, you can see that when we IPO'd, that was the resistance level. The next day we were above it, stayed above that level for a matter of days. And as it came back down, it was hitting 28 as support before it finally lost it in the beginning of May this month.
There you go. So that is going to be one of the next levels to keep in mind here. All right. 13, I ran through most of the movers here. Is there any other mover or individual stock that you would like me to put on screen for you to break down?
Just whatever the chat wants to look at.
Okay. Chat is asking here for either Poet, Nokia, or Rocket Lab. So which one of those would you like me to pull up here? And I'm going to step away for a minute while you break it down like a fraction.
Well, we talked a lot about Rocket Lab, and we'll talk about it again. But let's take a look at Poet. I don't know what's going on here today.
Okay, we can take a look here at Poet. The one thing to keep in mind here is that this is trading right back up to that high on the daily chart. But let me, and actually, was there news on this? Let me see if there was. Yes, there was. Okay.
They got some top brass changes.
Okay, and COO is the position listed there. Excuse me. All right, 13. I'm gonna step away for just 1 second. I'll be right back. I promise.
Okay, so Poet. Not going to really spend a lot of time looking at the financials. I'm just going to take a look at the chart because it's interesting how we have filled the gap that was created back in the end of April. That was from Friday the 24th to Monday the 27th. Hung out down around the 20 and 50-day SMAs for a while before we managed to recapture that $10 level. And since then, we have been steadily climbing up. This might actually be the last day that we see this move through 10. It's looking like it's shaping up to be a 3-day move beyond that price. So we could see the 1550 highs today. But I would be careful of a potential reversal happening in this company. Don't know exactly why it's up. This looks like it's just running on something else that moved it earlier. Aside from that COO news, yeah, I don't really see what else what's going on here. They had an order canceled. There would take some more time to look. I have to look through this, but that's what I think was going on here with Poet. Just watch for that move that takes us up to the recent highs. I don't know if we're going to go a whole lot higher than that though. TXN, BlackBerry, and Mobileye. It's interesting that BlackBerry is getting brought up because I've been talking a lot about the QNX software from BlackBerry for what feels like years now, and now the QNX platform is going to be used for robots, as you're saying. And yeah, auto isn't great right now. It's got a lot of challenges, but it seems like there's a lot of growth ahead for robots. And I've kind of loosely connected the QNX software to being the three laws of robotics. Where a human can't be harmed by a robot. Yeah, it's QNX. It's a whole abbreviation, but yeah, QNX platform. That's the big thing with BlackBerry, and I think that's been the reason why it's been running a lot lately, is because they've been highlighting their that platform for use in robotics.
Okay, all right, really good stuff there, 13. Thanks for all of that. And Jay Rice, I see you were commenting here on Jay Rice's comments. So yep. The stocks listed there again: Texas Instruments, BlackBerry, and maybe Mobileye, MBLY. And
then we were also wanting to look at what else? There was like Rocket Lab, and there was an Nokia?
I don't know. Maybe you covered this while I was gone. I certainly didn't do this while I was here, but I appreciate insight like this from our group. This is from Sean. Sean, good morning, by the way. I'm bullish on QUBT. Here's why. Chips operate at room temperature, low energy. They make TFLN optic cables, which are the next-gen cables, and own their own production. They talked heavily about scalability during the earnings call. All right, Sean, I actually haven't gone through this yet, but I would love to go through that transcript a little bit more. So I'll probably use AI and Benzinga Pro to go through that and see what I can find. But what are some of the takeaways that you have on the scalability? And then, interestingly enough, I think one of the reasons that this is interesting here today is because look where we're at. We're up 25.75%. We're right above the 200 on this name. So I'm almost wondering if we can hold this and maybe get a trade here, QUBT, or does this act as resistance today?
With regard to Nokia, just because I want to answer those questions. So Nokia, this is one we've talked about quite frequently. This is one of the NVIDIA partners for 6G rollout. I think that this has a really good shot of getting up to 15 before we really start to see some resistance. It's gone as high as what, like 14.05. Okay, so that's so pretty close to 15, but not quite there yet. I still think it has a shot at hitting it, but getting kind of extended, and that's I think one of the really big features of this company is that they're helping bring 5G. There's a whole coalition of other companies that NVIDIA has partnered with to help roll out 6G. So that's what's going on with Nokia. That's why I like it. But when it comes to Rocket Lab, I may have given a pretty conservative price target because I've been waiting for 110 for the longest time, and I finally got it this week or last week actually when we
in the after hours. Yeah.
Yep. So this is coming up to a resistance area that I have around 130. So we're about $17 away, but much closer than we were previously. So 130 is where I'm looking at potential resistance for the time being, but this could be much higher some by next year because they've got a great future with their neutron rocket. Their backlog is starting to get pretty stuffed, even with the neutron rocket, which hasn't even flown yet. That's going to be one of the big things that they need to demonstrate works. That's been delayed several times. So that'd be one of the things to watch for with Rocket Lab is when they're going to actually have the neutron rockets made in flight. But they also have a very big U.S. Defense War Department angle. They have a dedicated launch facility in Virginia. So I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of downside in Rocket Lab's future in the near term. This looks like it has a lot more growth opportunity than otherwise.
Okay. All right. Good stuff there on Rocket Lab. Just really quickly, closing the loop here on QUBT. 6 minutes ahead of the open here. Don't worry, folks. I got my eye on it. Lion here says QBT is a great one. Eric here saying long term is a great investment, but and this is for regarding quantum, but the tech needs to deliver. The engineering team isn't there yet. But to be frank, that's every quantum name. So, Eric, let me ask you, how are you approaching this? Is this one of those things where you're just like, look, the time frame is what it is. So if I buy this, I have to hold this for a specific amount of time in order to determine if that's working? Is there anything, between point A and point B that you're looking at to see if this investment thesis is working? I'm with you on this. I do think quantum is going to be a huge thing. And I agree with 13. I think we really like these are just kind of the preamble, like the precursor moves. Like the regular moves will happen when this is closer and closer to being used in everyday life. And I think that might be closer than the initial time frame. 13, I finally come around to your view on that. I was just straight up wrong. Eric here saying, yes, it's a show me moment. Okay, so this is one of those things where if you're going to invest in this for the long term, there might be some volatility before that really takes off. You might think about doing this with a basket as opposed to putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, I don't think I would take my eyes off of Google. They're a pretty massive quantum leader.
Google has other things going for it that might help in that. In the meantime, we're waiting for quantum to really take off.
Well, right now, they've got their partners, working with their Willow chips, testing them and working on applications for them. So, I think that's very notable because you have quantum systems, in practice right now, being, in discovery of what their workloads are best used for. So I think that's something we should be keeping an eye on. It's with the developments out of Google. Then of course you also have Honeywell's Quantinuum that I believe is supposed to be IPOing later this year. That could really get these quantum names gassed up again.
Hard to beat out IBM or Google on quantum. EKS says that's how he is gaining exposure to that. So Kathy reminding us that Intel is a quantum play. Barry here says the only pure play for quantum worth holding IONQ, INFQ, and BTQ. Okay. I did want to cover MDT here real quick. Lion here says this is a, quote, screaming buy right here, end quote. Jesse from the chat is saying, is MDT a good long-term buy at $70? So you're basically saying if this comes in just a couple more points, is this a long-term buy here? Well, 13, you have any opinions on this? I know you followed this a little bit more than I do. I will say I don't love this right here. I'd actually be okay waiting for this to kind of confirm a turnaround. But what say you on MDT?
It's down at the levels I've been waiting for. This is one that I still own, but I was selling it when it was up in the 120s. But I still have some, so just kind of holding on to it. But it's down at a price now that really makes the dividend yield attractive. And the dividend, they don't have any concern about that going away. They are 1 year away, or I think it's next year, when they become a dividend king. They will have paid and raised their dividend consecutively for 50 years. So I think that's something that is notable. And I think down here at this level, maybe just at about 70, it's a pretty big buy here. It's just gone past the 200-month SMA, which is a noteworthy level I've been watching for because it's very little trading that's ever had underneath this moving average. So I would want to see support start to kick in very, very soon. And I would also want to see a recapture of that 200-month SMA happen. It's probably going to happen sometime later this summer if we get a reversal soon. But I think that we're getting really close or at a very attractive buying spot. So this is the level where I'd probably consider adding.
Okay. All right. Good stuff there. MDT. Lion says either DCA it or sell a put down here. All right. Chris looking for a possible swing long on McDonald's. This actually kind of broke through a support. I'd be looking for a little bit more, maybe 265. That would be another support level here. Clean break of that. Let me know, Chris, if you think this is going to turn around here. Happy to take another look at McDonald's. We're less than a minute till the market opens, though, so I'm going to flip over to the main workspace here.
I think with McDonald's, I could end up seeing this come down to maybe 230, and then getting some support. That I know that seems kind of scary, but it's in a down. It's kind of going down right now, and I don't know where it's going to find some support. But just looking at a weekly chart, I think I would put money on 230. So we'll see if it even gets down there. It's already kind of over, getting to be oversold. But even if it bounces and tries to recapture some levels, it could fail at that and continue lower. So 230 is about where I'd be looking for this to find a bottom.
Okay.
All right. Good luck, everybody. We about to open. Looks like TDIC just had a pop right before we opened. And it came back in underneath $2.
Okay, let's see what we are doing here today. Here's your McDonald's chart. This is up right out of the gate there. AVEX coming in a little bit. We'll see if that gives us a buy spot there. KOPN higher after its earnings. You love to see it.
Lots of selling right out of the gate. Wonder if we get some quick buying too. So Poet, one of the ones we looked at, that opened underneath its 200 EMA on the 5 minutes, trying to recapture that. CNCK, this isn't doing a whole lot out of the open here, but it is still trading underneath the VWAP, and looks like this could go on to lose 230 here in a bit. Large buyer at 225. Maybe there's support coming at that level. TDIC, this is climbing above its VWAP right now, trying to hold above it. BuzzFeed coming down to its VWAP.
Okay, here's TDIC. Circle, let's see how this is doing. Market is still coming in off that opening print. Circle, this actually bounced a little bit. Copen is halted to the upside.
Poet now turning around, coming back up to VWAP.
TDIC, you guys were mentioning here, this is just shy of 2. Okay, I'll keep this on here.
It looks like TDIC is trying to get back above 2, but there's a lot of resistance between 175 and $2. Lots of sellers in the way too, every 5 cents it seems.
Okay. Kathy mentioning INOD after the huge day yesterday. INOD up here at 110.
Wow. And it hit that trend line. It
sure did. And it looks like maybe it didn't, just because of the way I drew it. 13, for all intents and purposes, that hit the trend line. that was a great, movement and call. Yeah, no question. TE, this is Total Energy. This was another mover here this morning. That seems to have given most of it back already.
Lots of whipping around out the gate here.
QUBT, speaking of whipping around, this came right into the 65 EMA and then started to move higher. This now at the top of the pre-market range there and through.
TDIC trying to get over 190. Keep an eye on this, or just get ready if you're trading this. CNDT Big Pops is line. Is that what you were just looking at?
No. CNDT. Let me pull that up though. CNDT.
So this wasn't really moving a whole lot until it opened. It went from 175 all the way up to 2 in a hurry.
Chicago Realtor, what are your thoughts on Amazon here? So generally speaking, I just like Amazon just flat out. Where do we see it right here? Here's what the daily chart looks like. Would probably like this to try and pull back a little bit more. To me, it looks like it ran up to the trend line. I guess let's see if it can hold 264, but where I would like it, 260. I'd like it a little bit more. Izzy, if you're out there, I haven't seen you yet today. Let me know what price you like Amazon at too. We'll let the group know, I guess I should say. Amazon pulling back here. We'll see if 260 holds. BuzzFeed
went down to 155, which was the bottom end of the current support area. Okay, I'm trying to make sure I explain this correctly. So if you look at the 5-minute chart from BuzzFeed, you see how like when we opened at 4 a.m., we kind of had a little bit of a drop down into this area between looks like 135 to 160. So in there, you have a little bit of an area about 155 where that was providing support. The price opened, came down to the VWAP, found that support area. Now it's turning back up, trying to recapture this 175 area that we were talking about this morning. So still having a struggle with that 175. And if you look at the 185 area where it, we topped out just before we opened, large sellers in the way. If we get a volume expansion, we can blow right through those sellers.
Okay. SPY here, by the way, through its VWAP to the downside. S&P futures also pushing away from the downside here. Hermang is asking, will MRAM go back up? All right, this is a perfect question for the 8-ball. So we're going to ask the Magic 8-ball here if MRAM will come back up. Magic 8-ball, will MRAM come back up? Outlook good.
All
Says
right.
Outlook good. You probably can't see it, but that green screen's going to mess with it. It says Outlook good.
Poet.
There you go, Hemran.
Poet coming back up to 1480. That's the resistance it's been dealing with all morning.
Let's see. Is the market trying to bounce here? Sorry, 13. It's not. I thought maybe it was. My bad.
BuzzFeed trying to push through those sellers that we were talking about when we were just looking at this. 185, the high just before we opened. Trying to get through those sellers right in that same area.
Thinking about it, reminding us that MRAM told you about it weeks ago when I loaded it at 1050. There you go, thinking about it. Let's check in on Wendy's here. Wendy's continuing to pull after that try and take private news. Okay. AVEX, this is another one that we were talking about. This is the drone with all of the upgrades, or the initiations, the new initiations and price targets. This is now higher. It looks like 27 is the battle right now. Software is getting hammered, but NVIDIA is green, according to Kathy and Brian combining there. Here's NVIDIA. Indeed, that is green ahead of its report tomorrow. Copen resumed. Okay, this pulls. So this was halted above 6, pulled back a little bit after that resumption. Lion here saying, Ryan, when this market corrects or crashes, my money is going into Google, Amazon, and Micron. Okay.
Redwire having a nice morning. This thing ran up almost to 13. It 1287 is the high print. Kind of leaked into the close and went as low as 1150 in the pre-market. Now it's trying to recapture some of those levels. And it looks like BuzzFeed is about to try and make its push through those sellers we were talking about at 180 and 185. See if it can get that volume expansion and push through. Otherwise, we'll get rejected and probably even fall under VWAP if it can't do it.
Okay, let's also check in on Poet. Market continues to pull. We're down at 735. Remember, we talked about that area possibly being support. AVEX continuing here. Grats if you took that trade.
Good mention by Replay Game Lab. Rocket Lab successful second stage ignition. Nice. Nice to see stage 1 separation. Now back up to 120.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, guys. I think I just screwed up, and I'm sending reverberations through the chat, and it was unintentional. I think I said NVIDIA's earnings are tomorrow. They're not. It's next week. That is completely my fault. My apologies. You guys are all correct. NVIDIA's earnings are next week, May 20th. Apologies. My apologies.
A Poet still trying to push up. It's the only one right now that's looking kind of interesting. BuzzFeed not able to get through those 180 sellers yet. CNCK, this coming back down to the 65 EMA.
CNCK, let's get that up here.
But Redwire is pushing higher. BuzzFeed back up at the 180 area, trying to get through it again. Still, they'll have the large sellers. Got to see that volume expand.
Here's BuzzFeed. I'm watching the market here. It does look like it's trying to hold 735 and maybe bounce there. We'll see if it has the strength to do that.
Jonathan Cooper mentioning about how Netlist earnings are out and a beat. There's a conference call later, and they should be talking about the SK Hynix new deal.
Which one is that? That's Netlist.
Yeah, that
NLST, right? NLST, I think, is what the ticker is on that one.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing this up, but this isn't one I'm interested in because, man, it has gone on a parabolic run over the past several weeks. And I feel like getting this now would be like running it in front of a train that's moving quickly. Now, it seems like $4 has a pretty interesting resistance area. If you look at a larger time frame, like a weekly or monthly chart, that $4 area really does stand out. So I could see the price. I could see the price climbing up and finding that resistance at 4. And it doesn't have much further to go, just 29, 30 cents away from that level. So I'd be keeping an eye on the price interaction for Netlist at $4.
Okay. All right. Good stuff there. NLST. NVIDIA calls, seeing a bunch of those getting bought. Bunch of NVIDIA calls getting bought there. Some puts too, I should say.
You think this is some hedging?
I think that the bulls know that it's AI or bust. So I think that with these earnings coming up here, you got the market participants saying, we're going to go after NVIDIA. And it's either going to work or it isn't.
All right. Just waiting for some things to happen here. CNCK down to the 65 EMA. You may get a brief bounce here that could take it up to 230. I don't know that it's going to be able to recapture it, though. That's a question mark for me.
Lion here saying he's not taking any long position until that report is out of the way. The NVIDIA report, that is. Mm-hmm. OSS, by the way, this is at yesterday's intraday high. 1650 is that resistance. What do you have?
Poet is trying to break through that resistance area I mentioned earlier. It's right there right now. This is about 1480, 1485. We do have some prints in the pre-market that went up to 1518, but that was very brief. I'm looking at this 1480 as more of a breakout level, and we're right there right now trying to get through it.
Okay, we'll see what we get on Poet. Market is trying to bounce here. We'll see if it's got the strength to get above the VWAP and then the 9 EMA. Those will be the next two levels here. QUBT on the back of its earnings here, higher out of the gate.
It's looking like it's giving a lot of the quantum names a lift here. That pull our Rigetti up a little bit here. It does look like it did slightly. But Rigetti having a hard time getting back to that 2150 area. So far the price action today in Rigetti does look like it's struggling, which is one of the things we're looking for when we're trying to trade RGTZ. So see what we end up getting here. But if this does start to weaken, I would be looking for it to come down to the 20-day SMA where it's been getting support.
I was going to say, if this can't get back above 2150, which is the blue horizontal line that you see on the chart, does that equate to a possible short entry?
I would think that's one area. Yeah.
Rigetti, right? Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
okay.
I'm just kind of like, focused on.
Yeah. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. Ryan, institutional and hedge funds always hype and push the stock to the limit and sell before everybody else. Okay.
CNCK. So we are getting some of a little bit of a bounce here on the 65 EMA, but I still think that you're going to have a hard time getting back up into the 225, 230 area.
SPY bounce did recapture the VWAP, battling with the 9 EMA at the moment. Chicago Realtor asking about Nike. Man, oh man.
Is that down again?
What's that?
Is that down again?
Well, he's asking if we like it down at these levels. And I know we've been asked this a whole bunch here. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't. I don't at all. I don't like the business. I don't like the product. There are better products out there. I understand the chart has really kind of come down from some of those highs. And so I understand exactly why people are interested in this. And it may even bounce. But this is just not one that I'm interested in at all. Sorry, Chicago.
Just waiting to see if BuzzFeed's going to, make this move up through the 180s, or if it's going to come down and lose its VWAP.
AAOI above $200. This thing's screaming off that recent pullback to 150. Got a $50 move in like 2 sessions. Kathy, did you hit this one? I'm going to give you a preemptive registering anyway, to be honest. Hims little squeeze. Now that's interesting because Hims reported earnings and traded down yesterday. I'd be curious to see if this can catch a bid today.
The only other 2 names that on my space watch list that are doing as well as AAOI are Satellogic, SATL, and Rocket Lab, RKLB.
Hims, this feels like a dead cat, doesn't it? I'm almost, I think about this, and I know there's not really a relation, but I think about the earnings action that we saw on Roblox. All right. If we take a look at this, if we zoom out here, this is what we saw on Roblox. This stock reported earnings. Come on, chart. You going to load the rest of this or just like 2 days here? Came in from earnings, bounced, and then rolled over and then reset some of these lows. So we're actually holding the lows here from that earnings. But I almost wonder if you're going to get something similar there.
If you want something to watch, something to watch for with Hims, you could draw a trend line on the bottom of all the price action we've had recently. So if you start with the low from February 24th and draw it through the low on April 13th, I would say that this is a trend line that you need to continue to see support from, because if you lose this trend line, I think that's going to spell continued downside for the stock. Right now, it's trying to hold above 25, which is another important level that I've got here. So if we do start to slip underneath 25, this trend line is the 50-day estimate would be the next areas of support I'd be watching.
So this is about it, right? Yep.
Yeah, because if we lose that trend line, I think that's a very strong indication that we are going to be heading lower. It'll back test it and then go lower.
For those of you on AVEX, that is actually moving higher here. 27.44 is your high. It's right above 27. This was a nice little trade higher here out of the gate on some of those initiations. PayPal getting smoked. Goldman Sachs getting smoked. Tesla bounced up to 448, got sold right back down to 440.
But where's PayPal at?
PayPal's at 44.50 right now at the lows, day lows.
So it still has a little ways to go to where I think it might fall to.
By the way, that SPY bounce that we talked about, rejected at the 9 EMA and rolling back over, coughing up VWAP on the way back down.
BuzzFeed is taking another shot at those 180 sellers. It's hitting them. We'll see if it can actually get through it this time. Chipotle down here at 32.
I want to like that because I love the burrito and I love the food so much, but man, the stock's been tough. Stock has been real tough. Really since post-split.
Yep.
Stock has been insanely difficult.
I think we pointed that out. Like we mentioned the date of the split was in June of 2024, and since that day, it has not seen that high since. But CMG kind of trading in a bit of a symmetrical triangle right now that I get the sense it could fall out of. Yeah, I think this might end up going lower. So I guess what I'd be watching for is we need to see this hold support at 30. And if we lose that, then, looks like we're coming down to 25. But if we hold at 30, I would be watching next for a recapture of 35.
And frankly, I would love to actually, wherever this ends up holding, if it does in fact hold, I'd love for this to make a higher low on this daily so we can do the same type of trend line that we just did on HIMS, like an underside support trend line that's sloping up from right to left, or reverse that from left to right. I'd love that. We'll see if it ends up settling here. Joe mentioning that the big mover from yesterday, ODYS, pretty much gave it all up yesterday. That's why these movers are just, you got to be nimble on them. You got to be quick on them. These are not necessarily good companies.
BuzzFeed rejected at the 180, and now it's done one. And this is going to halt. It's halted down to the downside.
Rigetti here. This is trying to bounce again. We'll watch 2150. I got an alert that this was above 2150 in the pre-market today. I wasn't at my terminal yet. I was actually in the washroom. Wendy's is trying to recapture its VWAP. Does not look like it has the strength to do that. We'll see if that changes. As you would expect, SOXS on the scanner here, this gapped up. Actually, it looks like this might try and go higher here. This is the short leveraged ETF on the semiconductors.
TDIC, this one trying to get back above the pre-market highs. There is one print out where it took it up to 261. We did have a print out of the gate that took it up to, looks like it was 212. We've just recaptured the VWAP and the most of the resistance at 190. If we can shoot past 190 where there's a seller, we might see that 261 again. Or we need to start recapturing some levels here pretty soon. It's getting some volume though, I think, because BuzzFeed's halted now.
Future showing a downtrend. I would agree with that, Selena. I've got a bearish momentum trend on the S&P futures. That's a 15-minute chart. I've got negative breath on everything but the Dow. Jay, you're absolutely right about this. Best insider buy this year so far is the big CEO buy on Palo Alto, ticker PANW. That was back in the 140s. Palo Alto above 210 here today. Palo Alto 213. Beg your pardon.
CNCK.
Yep, CNCK.
Yeah, that just had a bit of a move here. It's trying to come off of the 65 EMA and get back into the 230s where we have that resistance. It's almost up to VWAP, which I have at just shy of 240. I see my K. Yes, BuzzFeed is halted. That halt time was at 9:50:08. Wendy's still struggling to bounce anymore. Definitely finding resistance at the VWAP. What did you have, 13? Sorry. Oh, I was just mentioning that Poet having a hard time getting back up into the 15 handle. About 10, 15 minutes ago, it was rejected up there. And now it's down to the VWAP again.
RGTZ, this looking like this might try and trade higher here. So maybe if you're playing that RGTI pullback or relationship trade. G-Cord asking, what does the halt signify concerning BuzzFeed? Just want to know if it's trading or not. I don't think it necessarily signifies that it's going to go higher or lower or anything like that.
No, it doesn't signify anything except that they had a lot of a high volumetric move in one direction or the other. They halted it for volatility. It's usually one of the reasons a stock will get halted. Otherwise, it's usually for news pending.
And 13, I don't know how you feel about this, but I've got like a kind of a mini trend line from the pre-market highs as well as the intraday highs there on BuzzFeed. So we'll see if that gets taken out, if it turns around at all.
It's going to need to catch some support down at that 65 EMA, which is not too far away from. So either there or 150. We'll see when it unhalts here, which should be not too long from now. And TDIC, it's still struggling to try and push into that, push above 190. Struggling to hold VWAP too.
That was TDIC, right?
Mm-hmm. That one's trying to push up as well. Looks like Poet getting some support from its VWAP.
To be honest, I don't see anything great here at all today.
No, there's a lot of sideways price action with these names that we've been looking at here today. It's a little frustrating. Waiting for something to do something and it just doesn't have the volume. So just be careful, folks. Just be careful.
Thinking about it, mentioning MRAM. Let's see if the 8 ball was right there on MRAM. To refresh my platform here.
BuzzFeed open and lower, now going beneath the 65 EMA. TDIC lost VWAP as well. That's coming down to its smaller EMAs. It's actually moving through them right now, the 9 and the 15, on a way down to the 65 EMA for TDIC.
And MRAM, so the 8 ball, actually getting one right here today. I'll take that. MRAM here higher, actually above the $39 level that we identified yesterday. See if we can hold above this $39 level. Zach mentioned the Iran news was bad. That definitely is playing into the market here today. China's pending, not a high confidence day, not yet, but we'll see how that China meeting works out. Tom saying no real wild runners today. Indeed.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun last week. No fun this week. Wendy's getting some support from the VWAP right now, trying to recapture the 65 EMA. We need to see some better volume than this out of Wendy's. CNCK getting rejected at that 230 area.
I'm going to refresh Pro here. Just give me a sec. What was your favorite order from Wendy's back in the day? Were you a junior bacon cheeseburger guy or what?
You know, I really wasn't a Wendy's guy.
Okay.
I guess I was more of a Carl's Jr. guy.
Okay.
But even then, they weren't that super great either. They did have some pretty interesting, massive burgers. BuzzFeed getting some support from the 65 EMA, trying to turn around here. TDIC making its way towards the 65 EMA. That's a downside move.
ERNA, this is a good mention here. Whoever's on ERNA, I'm sorry we got to this a little bit late. This didn't start running until the market actually opened. It's been halted on the way up. Actually, it looks like this might get halted again here at 11:30. Let's see. Let me take a look at this in my broker. Yeah, this is going to be halted here. ERNA halted again. This is the third halt. This one to the upside. Highs of day, 11:28. Anne Marie says her favorite thing there was the Frosty. Jay Rice also loved the Frosty. Jay and Anne Marie, let me ask you guys, were you guys part of the crew that would dip French fries into the Frosty? I had a number of kids that I went to school with that swore that was the best way to do it. Baconator getting some mention in here. Anne Marie says, I'm so happy we're talking about food. I'm on a 5-day prolonged fast, so I'm in the hurt lock.
So with Ernexa, they have a catalyst coming up. They are going to, they recently announced preclinical ovarian cancer treatment as part of the closing bell event tomorrow.
So cancer treatment, this has got some legs then.
There's a virtual investor closing bell event tomorrow, and you can view it if you want. If you just go to the website, the Pro and click on the article that you have, there's links to register for it. But that could maybe give it a lift in the after hours. I would think this would be something to keep an eye
on. Access the segment here. I think this is the link that you were talking about. I'm going to post that in the chat for the group here for anyone that wants it. Here,
you see right there, it says register for the closing bell event here.
Yeah. So when I clicked on the link, this is what it brought me to, the closing bell event for Wednesday, 4 p.m. So I think this is it. So I'm just going to link this for the group here for anyone that might be interested in checking this out here today. That link is in the chat. Go back to Pro.
Do the machines work, guys? You guys keep talking about Frosties. Do the machines work, or that's probably just a McDonald's thing? We're getting some big polls here, and some of the names we've been looking at this morning. BuzzFeed's still holding at 65 EMA for the moment. TDIC is still trying to turn around and get back above VWAP. Same with CNCK. Poet just lost its 65 EMA and VWAP in one knife. This looks like it's coming down to the 200 EMA, which is going to have a value of 1376.
Sorry, I'm just looking around here at stuff.
Yeah, there's not a lot of great, looking setups at the moment. Might just be one of those mornings where if nothing's shaping up to really work out, you just sit on your hands and wait for opportunities.
SPY below 735 now, coming into 734. We'll see if that ends up supporting it. Don't forget, we do have Anne-Marie. I know she's joining us here in the chat, which we love it. But we're going to have Anne-Marie on here for some potential options trades. The Pro Lon is really great. It's not a pure fast, but it's enough to cause some real personal agony. Yeah, I fast every night during the week, overnight. I can't do this prolonged multi-day fast that you guys talk about. That's crazy talk to me.
I like food.
Me too. Crypto falling. Indeed, Bitcoin actually coming in towards 80K at 80,600 right now. And oil, by the way, still holding higher here by about 3.5%. Oil futures at 101.60.
Wild price action in MRAM.
Let me go back to that. That was one folks were looking at earlier. Still watching ERNA on the halt, by the way.
You got these big green candles, and you have a matching red candle, and you have a big green candle after that, and then it goes higher and it repeats the process. I wonder if this next candle is going to be higher than 41. Looks like BuzzFeed is at risk of losing its 65 EMA. TDIC still trying to recapture its VWAP.
Copen still holding higher by 13%. That was on its earnings. QUBT, that came back and gave that second pop away, but this is also still holding higher on the back of its earnings. Navitas, this came in 10.5% here today.
All of a sudden, I'm seeing just like a big move up in some of these names. But it's probably just more volatility. Don't be careful. Wendy's still climbing, but it's making its way back up. A lot of sellers in the way between here and 775.
Canarp saying, who has time? My granddad did. He walked 7 to 9 miles per day, ate everything he wanted till the last day at 102. So it's interesting that you mentioned that. I also am in the habit of doing 5 to 7 miles per day worth of walking. Sometimes I kick that up to 9 to 10 miles every day. I'm with you on that. And one of the things that I heard, Knarp, a long time ago, somewhere it was some TV program, they were interviewing this 105-year-old Japanese guy who was a doctor. And they asked him, they said, what is the secret to living as long as you do? And his answer was so simple. He said, I take the stairs. That I've been taking the stairs for the last 60 years. If a 105-year-old guy can take the stairs, my 40-year-old ass can take the stairs. That's the way I look at it. Really good for you. So I try to do the same thing. Movement is medicine. Absolutely. Absolutely, Anne-Marie. Walking is better on your back and knees than running.
I skip.
Okay, 13 skips.
I'm just waiting for at least one of these names to stop bouncing around in consolidation. Maybe Wendy's gets back up to 780 here. It's still climbing.
You know, that's also 13 why I'm kind of watching the SPY here, because I think if the broader market puts in any type of action like it's going to bounce, we might get some of the individual names to start their bounce a little bit sooner. And I'm just not seeing it yet. I'm not even seeing FinTwit blow up with stuff. It feels like everyone's waiting. Wendy's might be getting ready. This is actually one of the better ones we see here. It's sitting right at VWAP.
Just waiting to see if BuzzFeed can hold above the 65 EMA for one more candle. If it can, we might be getting a reversal here in BuzzFeed. So just waiting to see what this current candle is going to do here with the 65 EMA. Looks like
this is a key bounce point right here, says Anne-Marie. Okay.
Yeah, this looks like that we're there's some attempt to make a reversal here.
Yeah, part of me wonders if this bounce can't firm up here, if we roll over and kick it away. It is definitely trying to bounce. We bounced from that 734 handle back into the 735 handle, but we just don't have the strength to take out VWAP, and we're still a ways away from the 9 EMA. Lion here saying, Ryan, if the semis bounce, the market will bounce as well. That makes total sense. Scott is adding to DRAM here on the pullback. Now, Jay had mentioned earlier that the DRAM chasers were getting hit. And this is actually not a bad idea. Scott waiting for the pullback here.
Does Arby's have a ticker? I don't think.
Feels like an Arby's night.
I don't think it does.
It does not. Let's find out who owns Arby's.
Yeah. You know, Joe, that's
Brands.
That's the thought that I had when it came to Dollar General. Wendy's still climbing.
Oh, well, how about this, folks? Inspire Brands is private and has not yet gone public. However, there were discussions for them to maybe price a $2 billion IPO. Here, for anyone that's interested in this, I haven't read this article. I'm going to throw it in the chat here for you. ERNA is open and going higher. 1240, your high print there. 1289 now, 1320 now. ERNA popping out of its halt will rehalt here 1320. So this is the one on the cancer news that it had, and it would appear, at least early on, this thing has some more legs. Halted up here 1320 ERNA. That thing wasn't even open for 20 seconds.
Yeah, I feel like, when it comes to Arby's, that's just, self-punishment.
This thing is saying Inspire Brands could IPO in 2026, targeting $2 billion. Support from Barclays, Goldman Sachs, and Morgan Stanley suggests that a board syndicate is forming. So no ticker yet, They got the meats, not the ticker, but maybe we get an IPO later this year. That was a good mention there. I didn't even know that was on deck.
And if they start reporting, they'll have the beats.
The meats and the beats. Plug, this came back a little bit after its earnings, but it's really struggling to get through its VWAP.
Yeah, BuzzFeed's still trying to hold above that 65 EMA, but man, this is just not the strongest looking day. I'll just say that.
Apple, Netflix, and Costco at the highs. Do we make anything from that?
Apple, Netflix, and Costco?
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything to be made from that. I'm just thinking out loud here.
People still want to watch their movies on their phones and shop at bulk retailers.
I mean, I don't know how anyone can stay on their phone at Costco. You get run over by a cart. You do something like that.
Retro, I'd probably say no because the cure for cancer is not going to stop people from getting old. And it's just one thing that's causing that's I don't know. There's certainly
isn't heart disease? Isn't heart disease one of the biggest killers?
It might be, but I think that could be related to drinking and smoking. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm just saying the cure for cancer. I don't think that the short on funeral homes would work. That's all.
We have. Hey, everybody has busy mornings. Not a problem. You get on when you get on.
Yeah, you get on when you get on. We don't take attendance here, thankfully, and better late than never, as we've said. Now, he's asking about Oklo here. So it's interesting, Deep. So first of all, here's what your Oklo chart looks like. We already have broken out of a descending wedge, and we've kind of moved sideways. Certainly looks to my eye here like this area, this $80 area, is acting as some significant resistance. So we're at 75. I think if this thing prints a good number and holds above 80, you could probably go on a run. We had Charlie Moon from T3 on earlier. He gave targets of 120 and then maybe even 150 if this thing really starts to get going. So Casa saying it's time to stock up on MU. Who else is buying the Micron dip? I know the market has really kind of been conditioned to buy any dip on some of these memory names. Is anyone else following this? Micron dipped off the high here. Didn't quite close that gap. Maybe another 20 points, 15 points or so. Who's buying the Micron dip? Besides Casa Miami by Sissy, which I love that handle, by the way.
I mean, we dipped.
I mean, I know it's small, 13, but as far as Micron goes, that's about as big of a dip as you're going to get, or that we have got. Liam says he's buying Micron. Lion took a swing on Micron. So, Sissy, it looks like you're not alone on that. CW Parker buying the DRAM dip. Someone else was buying the DRAM dip earlier. Kathy adding to DRAM instead of Micron.
Seems to me like the dip to buy in Micron is going to be just under 750. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's the way I see Micron, because there's a gap that we could fill back down to the candle from Friday and then get support there and turn around and go higher. It wouldn't surprise me if Micron still ended up going lower than the current low today.
Joe saying, I'm waiting to buy the MU dip. Lots of false starts and sputters. You said false starts, so I'm thinking about football. That's your fault, Joe. ERNA still halted, by the way. I know we're still waiting for that to unhalt here. Sellers weakening, but could still see some more downside. So far, Selena, it looks like 735 held. It'll be very interesting to see if SPY can recapture its VWAP. That might give us something here in the afternoon, but I'm not ready to say that. ERNA is open, by the way, and moving lower now.
Just waiting to see if BuzzFeed's going to, come off of the 65 EMA. It's looking like it's been bottoming here, but hasn't been able to get back above 160 yet.
Here's ERNA, by the way. This will be a downside halt at 12.24 if this holds.
Yeah, I think that's what has to happen, Zach. And even the pullback we got in the broader market, I don't think was enough. We didn't even hit 10%.
Now let me ask you, 13, just to kind of along those lines. Do you think any of like the software stocks like Microsoft that corrected 30 or 30+%, do you think those might correct less if we do get a market-wide move? I would relative strength on some of these names.
I would think the ones that are the most extended are going to correct the most.
Yeah,
that would be my thought. And to your question about Microsoft, probably it seems like we've already had a significant move down off the highs with that one, and it hasn't recovered. But the things that have been running, I could see correcting more.
Market is bouncing. The SPY moved through VWAP. S&P futures are approaching VWAP here. I've got S&P futures 74.05 and the VWAP at 74.0893. So 74.09 maybe. 4 more points. We'll see.
Poet trying to come back up and make a shot at $15. We had a test of that earlier this morning. Only got up to $14.97. Price is coming back up, so just keeping an eye on that for another move up to 15. Maybe we get through it this time.
Yeah, Lion, I suspect, and I would expect, I should say, everything to correct a little bit. The point that I was trying to make is that some of these stocks, particularly the software names, have corrected a lot more than the broader market. And part of me is wondering if that's a relationship that we can watch. If the market starts to move in and software maybe doesn't move in as much, maybe the market is kind of telling us that the sell-off in some of these names might already be out of the way. And it might be those software names that we can look at to maybe leg into. That's all. Market is trying to bounce here. I'm not sure that I trust this, though.
Yeah, and I think I just would keep an eye on the most hammered down sectors, because if we are going to see some of that sector rotation that some of y'all are expecting, if this Iran war smooths over, I think I'd want to be keeping an eye on the most hammered down names. Let me see here.
Jay mentioning AVEX is working so far, so good. That was the only scalp that I did here was on AVEX. I've been out of this for a bit.
Yeah.
G-Man says it's a trap.
It's a trap.
Breath's still really poor. Dow is the only thing positive.
We might be getting that move in BuzzFeed now. It's starting to come off of the 65 EMA, moving up towards VWAP. It's got to recapture the 9 and 15 right now. Not doing it in a whole lot of volume, but
it sure isn't.
It's still climbing. We're going to need to see more volume if we're going to get up to through 165.
And then that 163 VWAP here.
And yeah, replay. I think that one of the sectors we should be looking at for trades is going to be financials. That seems like that's one of the more hammered down sectors this year. So I think that if we're looking for something to trade that's been hammered down a lot, I think I'd be taking a look into the financial sector. Axon back above 400. That's good to see. Probably getting pulled down with software since they have that evidence cloud. And that's one of the things they've been getting contracts on. Just a consolidating day, it seems.
Yeah, there really hasn't been a lot of action here. Grats to anyone that took AVEX off the open there. That was about it. ERNA, if you caught that initial impulse move, Wes, I know you were watching that one, but otherwise it's been kind of a sleepy day here. Netflix at the highs, Apple still at the highs, Costco still at the highs.
BuzzFeed still climbing, just slowly. approaching VWAP. And Roblox, still don't like the company. There may be a trade here because of how beaten down it's been, but even if you do get a bounce, it's still got a massive amount of headwinds coming, and it loses hundreds of millions of dollars every quarter. If you do get a reversal and it starts to trade back up, I would think $50 is going to be your resistance. Not sure you're going to get a whole lot more upside beyond that.
ERNA going for new highs out of its halt. Anaconda Williams says, I took ERNA at 670 last week. What was the reason for doing that? I mean, that's awesome. I'm just wondering what the reason for that was. And your BuzzFeed right at VWAP there.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to one more thing with Roblox, this month we did open underneath the 50-month SMA. So that's that's going to be a big resistance area on the way back up. And it still looks like we could come down to 40 and make that print there before we really turn around. So yeah, Roblox to me looks like there's still some potentially lower prints ahead. And the recovery is going to take a while, especially with the lawsuits regarding child safety online.
ERNA pushed to some more new highs. What a nasty move this thing has been. And the SPY, by the way, is trying to go higher here now.
Yes, I think that BuzzFeed, the reaction is from the
news.
Yeah, the investment amount, $3 they want to buy it at. Oh, so we almost hit that VWAP in BuzzFeed. TDIC down to the 65 EMA. We had a bounce here last time. I don't know if we're going to get one here again. I actually end up falling through the 65 EMA on this one. Volume's just not great. CNCK lost 65. It's trying to recapture it now. Erna is starting human trials soon, huh? That's going to be a little bit pricey.
Think they do an offering ahead of that?
Well, what's their cash position like? Let's take a look.
Yeah, let's do that here real quick. I can do that for you, 13.
All right. So they've been having a good morning. They don't seem to. I mean, I don't know if they've reported, recently to where they have a different cash position than what I've got here, but it looks like they've got less than 2 million, and that's about how much they burned through. There's no revenue. Yeah, I kind of get the sense that they may have to end up doing a capital raise here in order to fund those clinical trials. Unless there's something here that we just aren't seeing. Company announced pricing of a 10.5 million public offering. That was in February. I don't know if that ended up happening or not. It did a 1 for 25 reverse split recently, and I wonder if they're going to do a capital raise soon. I kind of it would lean into the idea that they might. They're kind of going through the motions. They just did the reverse split, so now their float is under 1 million. Could easily dilute it. Ooh, what a nasty pull, a nasty knife there with BuzzFeed, losing the 65 EMA in the process. Yeah, I think that's something I'd be wanting to watch here with ERNA. It looks like they're going to need to raise some cash at some point very soon if they're going to start those clinical trials. I would look into that. That'd be my next thing if I was trading this.
BuzzFeed, I'm glad I stayed away. Richard Judge, take care of yourself.
Take care, Judge. CNCK also having the same thing happen to it.
Chicago Realtor saying that the Wendy's short percentage you have is 26%. We had much higher than that. I think we had 80% in the short interest data that we had here. As far as the days to cover there, that utilizes obviously different data points here. I think we had 6+. Let me check for you.
Did we just get a new release? Because I was looking at this earlier. It said 82. Now I have
we did.
34.
We did. So we actually got an update. It was effective as of yesterday. So this was the job running here and posting it. So it was effective as of yesterday, down to 34%, which makes a lot more sense. Days to cover, though, still 626. Yeah. That's in the same area. That's still high.
Yeah. So still has that short squeeze parameter.
Yeah, it's still high on both metrics. Exactly, 13. Exactly.
It looks like TDIC is going to be the next one to lose at 65 EMA. So far, BuzzFeed's done it. CNCK's done it. That CNCK is actually down to a 200 EMA now. TDIC was the only other one I was looking at. That's the last one to make that. There it goes.
And that market bounce, by the way, that's getting sold now. So glad we didn't trust that.
So all those movers that I looked at this morning, they all lost their 65 EMA within the same minute. Hilarious. That is hilarious to me. As if the same set of eyes, like everybody's eyes were all on the same thing. Drones are having a nice move today, Joe. ERNA has a 50 million shelf offering on the table. There it is. That's what I'd be careful about.
And we know they're going to use it, right? Because they're going to require that money for phase 3.
They're going to have to. All right. I think I'm just going to be done with all those movers from this morning because
I think I am too, 13. I think that's the smart move today.
I just was waiting for the some move to happen. The move was to the downside. Not interested in these anymore. What is looking good though? Lots of things just kind of going down. I mean, I'm seeing some more of the beaten down names perform a little bit better here. Look at ATRA. This one having a nice morning. Up over $1. Kevin Van Pham saying MU is headed to 750, and I think that was the spot I was looking at earlier as well, because that fills the gap to the downside, right? I mean,
yeah, that's not even that far away from where we're at.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I was looking at. Because there was that question of I think this morning about this being a viable dip, and I was looking at 750 where we filled that gap. It's actually more like 747.21, but still, I agree with that 750 area. That's what I was looking at earlier too.
Netflix still at the highs. All right, 13, we're going to move over to Anne-Marie in 3 minutes. I'm going to actually use the washroom first before we do that. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. Anybody want me to look at something before we move over to Anne-Marie, where you're going to get some excellent options trade ideas and make some money with premium? A whole bunch of just moving around back and forth with no real direction being taken. Looks like even AAOI is not sticking around for the party. That is coming down now. It lost its 65 EMA and it appears to be headed right for the 200 EMA. Google, NVIDIA for 3 days. Would love to hear my thoughts on Whirlwind, I believe is what that is. WHR? Or Whirlpool. Sorry, Whirlpool. Whirlwind. Spinning around. Wow, this thing not having a good week, month, year. Let's take a look at where this goes. So we are just really beelining for the downside, aren't we? I would say that we are getting pretty close to some support levels. To me, it looks like 32 is going to be the next big one. I guess that's where I would be looking at. Just double check. Yeah, 32. August 2000, 32 was the low. We do have a lower print from March of 2009. That low is 1919. I don't know that we're going to get down there. I would be keeping an eye on that $32 level. That would be my my target from here. Just do one more quick measurement. Oh yeah, I think I like 32. I think I like 32. That's the spot I would say is a pretty good area for a bounce. Maybe just slightly beneath it, but I think 32 is what I'd be keeping an eye on.
What name was that on?
We're looking at Whirlpool. If you go to a monthly, and this we can just sign off with this. If you go to a monthly, we just had a nasty death cross in Whirlpool back in October last year. I have a trend line from the May or April 2010, whatever which high that is. I drew it to meet the low from March of 2020, the COVID low. And that kind of gives us a target that lines up with the low from the year 2000, which is 32. I think Whirlpool goes to 32. And it looks like to me that we may end up finding some support down around there.
Okay. Sorry. It took me a year and a half to get the chart pulled up, and I did it right when you finished. Go figure that.
That's okay. Right. It's about the same as a Whirlpool dishwasher cycle.
Yeah, that's true. I have one. It takes forever. All right. 13, any closing words for the group here? Good stuff today.
Well, not the most exciting day.
No,
just a lot of sideways price action, a lot of names. I think the market's maybe just getting a little nervous. So maybe just sit on your hands until we get some clear direction of where the market's heading. We'll trade in that direction or the other. But until then, have a nice rest of your day. Enjoy time with Anne-Marie. Maybe there's some options trades that will make some more money than what these movers were providing us today. So take care. Have a good time with Anne-Marie, and I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
All right. Good stuff, 13. We'll see you on Happy Hour, and we'll see you again tomorrow. 13's departure leaves room for Anne-Marie. Let's bring her on. Anne-Marie, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm in my retro Southwest shirt, which I'm a big fan of. Enjoying the morning. What you just said a little bit ago about SPY, you said, hey, listen, I just feel like if this bounce doesn't hold and we lose it, we're going to roll over. And that, I believe, is exactly what we're going to do.
That's exactly what we are doing. We actually broke the intraday low and printed new lows now on the SPY and on S&P futures. So lower we go here. Glad I didn't trade that to the upside. Didn't trust it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look at
You want to share your screen?
Oh, shucks. Knucklehead that I am.
That's a term that doesn't get used as much anymore. Knucklehead. I feel like it should be used more often.
Do you see it?
Yep. Here we go.
All right, great. So we have a couple of things we can look at. I did a scan before we were together, and I love this scan. It's really great. It's tell me when I had a doji, and then tell me the volume. So it pops this up. And so interestingly, here we have Micron. So the question is, who's going to buy Micron? That is easily one of the most parabolic charts I've ever seen. The one that comes close happened with the Volkswagen squeeze. Do you remember that one? Were you around in those days?
No. When was that? I mean, what about the car squeeze? I was around for that.
Yeah. Now that one, really, is that pretty close, or it might be the same? What's Avis, right?
Yeah, car.
Yeah. So pretty close. That's epic, actually. And of course that's compliments of Jane Street right there. So yeah, this is pretty dramatic. Now we know we have to have chips. We know it's what gives us our compute power. The question is, how fast is too fast? And at some juncture, do we run out of buyers? And so my suspicion is that this is one of the poster children for these kinds of moves. Now, notice this. See this doji up here?
Yep.
And then the breakdown.
Mhm.
The gap, we call this sometimes an abandoned baby or whatever. But this topping formation on volume in the doji and then the break south, to me, says, hang on, we could have ourselves a little bit of a pullback into support. So the question is, how much do you want to put into that, right? And so if we were to say, let's just say it goes to 600, and let's say that it takes, I don't know, how long might it take? It might actually just take 2 weeks. You could say, look at how expensive that is. A lot of people are piling in there, though. That's a pretty expensive space. You could turn it into a butterfly if you liked. 18 cents might be worth it. If you think it's a great buy here and you're willing to give it time, I'd move way into the future. I'd say, all right, let's see if it can hold this in the next 60 days. Let's see where the traders are sitting. $750. Let's see how expensive this is to 800 to 850. $335. $335 for a $5,000 spread. Not bad.
No, not bad at all, actually.
It gives you, oh, look, it dropped down to 245. I put a stink bid in there and see if it filled.
Okay.
Right? So so from a seasonality event, we've been waiting for the markets to fade since the beginning of May. And so we are 11 days past due, 12 days past due for a fade that looks like a buyable fade, right? And so last week, tons of people warned, hey, listen, could have a rotation, blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, JC Peretz always comes in and sort of throws gasoline or flaming feces in a bag to whomever. To whomever. So, so the goal there is to see this pullback. So I would not be disinclined to either put a stink bid in there for, try and get it for like $1.80. See if it fills for you. And then try this put for a couple of weeks, because the dips are going to get bought. No doubt about it. They are going to get bought. The question is where and when. And so we have to sort of play that game. And I think that's a nice spot to look at.
And so by going out longer, are you effectively increasing your chances of making a successful trade because you can just wait till whenever it pulls back?
Side, yes.
As opposed to timing it. Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. You have time on your side for things to recuperate, and Micron has got pretty bullish seasonality anyway. So the summer fade, though, in in a midterm presidential election cycle is really bad, though. So it's literally terrible. That's why the fall, September through December, is the strongest part of any 4-year cycle.
So do you think we're getting a summer time correction here? Just to put you on the spot.
Yes, I
Okay.
do. I believe it's the beginning of the summer lull. Now, is it going to be a place where things just fall off a cliff and you can get up in the morning and buy puts, and then, in the afternoon you go to Ruth's Chris and spend $1,000 on dinner? If you could, if you wanted to. I just don't think that that's what we've got. I think we're going to have these jagged flows, especially two things coming into options expiry on this 15th. It's going to have massive amount of flow, and then a lot of people are thinking, listen, this expiration on the 15th is going to dislodge volatility events. And so I suspect some people right here are moving out of the way a little bit early. That's my gut. And then, of course, we have NVIDIA on the 20th.
Yep.
Here's another very interesting thing. A lot of people, NVIDIA's been sort of moving sideways into earnings. It's been kind of sideways action. So a lot of people have said, hey, I'm just going to sell a strangle. And it's turned out to be a terrible loser because of the way the options are running in there. So it might be a good place to look for a condor. We can check that out on Friday, just
Okay.
well, we could check it out the following Monday too. Just
I was going to say the
earnings.
Tuesday, because it's going to be on Wednesday, so we'll have a data position for that. Okay, that timing might work out nicely.
Yeah, so we'll put that on the list. The list. We could do let's see what else. We could do Palo Alto Networks. We could see that if that's a little long in the tooth at this juncture.
Okay. And I'm just looking ahead here. If you wanted to do another earnings play, I don't know if you want
Absolutely.
to.
Let's do it.
We have Oklo tonight. We have
Okay.
Cisco tomorrow in the evening. We have Alibaba tomorrow in the morning. We have NBIS tomorrow in the morning. These are all, Momo names.
What do you think?
Or AI related names. And then we have AMAT on Thursday. So I would say if you let me pick here, I would pick NBIS first, but I'd probably also want to take a look at Oklo. We had a number of questions from people on Oklo earlier today. So
M or N?
NBIS, Nancy Bravo India Sierra.
Okay, I'll do yours first, and then we'll do Oklo afterwards, or Oklo, however that's said. All right, so here's what we have. Very interesting formation, to be honest. Doesn't normally get massive volume during its earnings. They tend to do that before, which I find to be very interesting. Okay, so this one's run up quite a clip. It's got, some might say, hey, that's a really nice cup and handle. It's got a really good range. It's got a lot of motion down here. A dip could easily be a buy. If we're beginning the rotation of downward flow, it might not be the greatest place to take a long, but it does have seasonality that gives it, room to run into the future. Let me make sure that that's, it's not doing it for me. Knucklehead Fred again. All right, never mind. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. Oh, isn't this interesting? Wow, when did I take this trade? Because it's gone, long time ago. Okay. So this one's run at a monster clip, right?
Yeah.
And so the question is, what do we have next? Upside 220, and then downside would be the break of the support zone at 134. So that is a pretty solid range. So we could say 160 to 2. So do we know how into the Analyze tab?
Oh, there we go.
And we looked at them. What would we say? A lot of outperform long. It's running stack infrastructure. Oh, that makes sense. All right. I think it pulls back like everybody else. I mean, if it fades, it's going to fade like everybody else. So could you take an outside bet here? So let it go. All right. And let's see. Wow, look at that implied vol. Wow. Okay. If you give it a couple of days, 2 weeks, and you think there's 1,000 of them right here at the 150 mark. Now it has the potential to go into that 150, but maybe 170, 160, 150. It's $1 for $1,000 of upside. It's got a couple of weeks on it. Let's see if it's cheaper out in June. Might not move as quickly, but let's have a look. So we have 170, 160, 150. Oh, much cheaper, 78 cents. So if you're interested in NBIS and you're thinking, wait a second, could they have the same downdraft as the semis? Just people finally taking profit. I don't know if you saw that. I think somebody put out an article that said, this is, was it? SanDisk is the most overbought of any stock of all time in history.
I mean, I don't know how to measure that, but I would believe that. I think didn't Tiny Pie give us a stat here? SanDisk is at a 98.74 RSI on the monthly. 98.74. The scale only goes to
on
100.
the monthly. That's on the monthly.
On the monthly.
Yeah, that's crazy on the monthly.
Crazy.
Yeah, bananas. Okay, so I think they fade. So that is my thought right there. A clue. These
they
guys
report earnings tonight.
Okay, so what again do they do?
This is like nuclear power. Let me read you exactly what angle of that business that they're in, though, because that might come into play here. Developing fission power plants to provide clean, reliable, and affordable energy at scale. So obviously, this is part of the whole data center thing as well. Okay,
and the fact that we're gonna have a problem with oil, so nat gas is going to be expensive also. And yeah, power's like water, folks. You ignore it, you take it for granted until you don't have any. So let's see. Tony Greer said something about Oklo. He felt like they had some sort of shenanigans going on in their paperwork. But that might have been sorted. This looks very bullish to me, except for this 200, which just a bit, but it depends, what do you want to look for? This might be one where you go, if I get a move, it could be big. So why don't I try a long iron condor instead of a short one? So let's give it a go. Let me look at the levels one more time. We've got 61 and 85. So let's see. 60 is probably, the vol is probably going to be, I don't know. 61 to That's expensive. 56. All right, let's try June. 60, 55, 50. 51 cents. If we wanted to do a butterfly, if we want to do a butterfly on the upside, we would do the 80, 85, 90. That's 28 cents. If we wanted to do a long iron condor or a straddle, that would be kind of expensive because the vol. But we could do a long iron condor. Let's see how much they would charge us. What? 60? Oh, I got it in the wrong direction, like a knucklehead. Jeez. Am I going to use knucklehead anymore? How many times have I said knucklehead today? 5?
A few.
6?
A few.
It's one of
I mean, it makes
those.
me chuckle every time, though. So it's just, it is what it is.
My dad would call me a knucklehead when I would do things.
My
He would
dad.
go,
My dad
"That's
said I was
very
asked.
knuckleheaded."
My dad said I was asking for a knuckle sandwich.
Oh, okay, that's hilarious. That is hilarious. Yeah, so that long iron condor is very expensive. If per happenstance you said, you know, I think it's going a lot further and it could really move, you maybe could do a 9100 and then a 6050, which would help a little bit, but not much. It's a very expensive condor. So I would suggest 2 butterflies to do that and capture both sides of what might be happening there. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah, I like it. But this is basically, as long as the option buyers win, you're going to be good on this.
Yes,
So
exactly.
we're trading in both directions. So we just need that outsized move. The stock's no stranger to it. I like it.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly right. It is not a stranger to outsized move, for sure. For sure. All right. Who else might be on the list?
AMAT, that's another one that's reporting on
AMAT.
Thursday.
Yes. Okay, so the question is, this is showing a little bit of a breakdown watch based on what's happened today. And look at how it went right up into that earnings expansion line. And now it's coming right back down into this zone. Here's the doji. This is a great one for a doji, but trend has to be in your favor, of course. The premise is this, for those of you that want to use this. I love sharing little mysteries I discover in the market. And this one is a good one. You find a doji, and the very next candlestick, you start watching it because you want to see if it'll break below the low of the doji or above the high of the doji. If it breaks below and your trend is down, you've got yourself a short. If it breaks above and your trend is up, then you've got yourself a long. If it breaks below and you've got a long, then you wait for it to stabilize and you can go long again. So it really is relative to trend, but it gives you a great view on, oh my goodness, are these guys moving into support? Are they moving into resistance? And you can play that. It's such an easy way to identify it. And it's in the native thinkorswim. Just look, doji equals true. So yeah, for these guys, I would say a pullback into maybe 377 within 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, maybe 10, 12 days. So I would look in June also. If it breaks to the north because they did a fantastic job of whatever, they would need to recover 423, and then their target zone would be 471 or 450. So you could do 450 to 470 if you are very bullish. My thought would be, if you're very bullish, then wait for the rotation and let the price action confirm. But here's what I noticed a lot of traders saying to me: yes, but what if it runs away from me?
Mm-hmm.
And that's completely valid to think about. But look at what the chart has done. Oh my gosh, what if it runs away from me? If you end up chasing and you chase too high, where it's at the top of one of these peaks, it's gonna, these things rotate back. Look at this thing using its 50, right back into the 50, right back into the 50, up, right back into the 20, holding. At the very least, it's going to come back into that 20 and potentially the 50. So, if you want upside pressure, you can go for it. I just think we're starting the beginning of a decline, so I would be positioned on the other side of that. So let me show you those two. It would be 450, 470, and then 400, 380. So let's try that. Uh, 400, 380, 350. That's $1.50. It's not bad. $2,000 of upside. And then 440, we could do 440 to 460 to 480. That's $1.45. So altogether, $300. Upside potential 2,000. So it's got legs. I would not be selling any puts because I have a natural fear of markets moving like this. And so I would be extremely conservative, and I would just pick up, onesies of these. If you think it's going to do something special, or you say to yourself, listen, I love applied materials, it's absolutely fantastic, I really want it, then, here's a really straightforward trade for bullish pressure. If you're looking for October pressure, you can do two things. You can sell the 430 and buy two 440s, and that gives you $5,000 to hold, but it literally only uses $1,000 of margin, and you've got unlimited upside, right? You got $10 that you have to worry about, but if this thing goes to 490, you're in Fat City. Okay, so you can do something like that, or I'm not sure Fat City's a place anybody really wants to go anymore, but
I was going to say, I know what you mean, but I don't think that's appealing.
yes, a lot of people would agree. I'm quite positive. Okay, so you could also do, here's another one that's very conservative. You could go a deep in the money call spread. It would give you, 40% return if it stayed up in there, and it's $1,200. So there are a lot of different ways to manipulate that. My suspicion would be, based on what I anticipate price action to actually do over the next week, I would say wait in general. To pick longs, I would say wait.
Okay. Okay, Amory, we've got 3 minutes left. Anything else that you're taking a look at? And you got any feelings on where the market might go, earnings, anything like that?
Yeah. Gut-wise, I think you hit the nail on the head today. It was very prescient of you. You said, hey, if we can't hold this 735, we're going to start retracing some other levels.
Yeah.
And so that's literally exactly what we're doing. Exactly what we're doing. So my thought is the chart's going to take a breather. So what's super interesting is yesterday or over the weekend, did I talk to you about the seek and destroy trade? Okay.
I don't think so.
So here's something super interesting. All of last week, the traders went into the market, saw where the call wall was, and immediately began to buy calls all the way up into the call wall and then past the call wall, which created a problem for the dealers who went from long gamma to short gamma. And so, was it short gamma to long gamma? Yes. And so what they had to do was buy the index so that they would be net zero and not open up any risk. So they chased the market makers up and forced them to buy 4 days in a row. Monday, yesterday, first day that we've had it. So over the weekend, the guy at Spot Gamma, he put out this article and it was called the Seek and Destroy Trade. And he talked about what these traders were doing to get the dealers on the back foot and push price out. And I thought to myself, that article is read by so many people. That guy's got a bazillion followers. I bet they looked at it and went, you know what? We're done. And yesterday was the first time they went into the 0 DTE call wall and reversed from it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And yesterday it behaved differently.
Yeah, it totally. It went right into the wall and it could not get above it. Could not.
Okay.
And so now the question is, all right, is that failure to get up over that ledge where for the SPY, the call wall was 740, are they going to push it back down and have it come into these lower edges? And I think they are, because everyone's expecting, hey, don't worry, it's a buy the dip.
Yeah.
It's a buy the dip. And they're getting, I think they're going to get flummoxed.
Tenzin says, so we're watching the same videos.
Yeah, very nice.
Tenzin's one of our sharp viewers out there. Okay. Anne-Marie, really good stuff. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.
You too.
Good luck on everything. We'll follow up with you on Friday.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
That is Anne-Marie, folks. Really good stuff from her. We're out of time here for today, but don't worry. We'll be back at this again tomorrow, folks. Stay green, stay safe, stay focused. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.